ladies and gentlemen, one and all to Survivor Series 22 review. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty, joined by two very, very notorious co-hosts, one of whom is hosting his own show simultaneously. We've seen this happen more than once before, and we know you love it out there. We know that people love hearing what we have to say. No matter how quickly we go off the rails, we always find a way to get that train back on track. And the person responsible for getting that train back on track most of the time, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, he is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Skyler Greenberg. How you doing, my man?
That was a terrible fucking pass interference call. Fuck you, referees.
And I'm sure that for those of you who are in the Bay Area, whichever Bay Area you're referring to, I'm sure you're feeling the exact same sentiment because the Bays are having a tough time with the ball that has feet. And speaking of a gigantic ball with feet, we have our other member. Because this man thinks he has balls, but at the end of the day, he's more like Larry the Cucumber. And now, Larry, JoshAgeddon, how you doing, my friend?
Sorry, you caught me off guard with Larry the Cucumber. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Totally Awesome Podcast. I'm Larry the Cucumber. That was brilliant.
Yeah, you want to talk about how deep that cut is.
Oh, I got an even deeper one. I could be a Larry boy.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I just want my cheeseburger.
I want to ask out QWERTY.
Well,
the silence.
I know you're not quite catching us here, but I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Oh, where is my hairbrush?
Oh, where's my hairbrush? Oh, where's my hairbrush?
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, you logged on to our Survivor Series War Games review, and we're hitting you with VeggieTales references.
That's right. Well,
we have not only, Sean, not only has this podcast peaked, we have peaked as a species.
Well, because we're helping the people get their vegetables, and that's
yes.
all you can ask for, is helping you with a balanced food and dietary supplements in the form of vegetables.
Yeah, but just make sure when you start eating the vegetable, don't eat the wheelchair.
But the good thing is that
where the vitamins are saying the
WWE anymore. So
we're all just trying to go for references at the same time. It's just a clusterfuck of noise.
Man jokes made at once. Let's talk about the first Triple H Survivor Series we've got.
Oh,
it was a
man.
5-match show, War Games, no William Regal. JoshAgeddon, your initial thoughts overall of the show before we start breaking it down.
Barring one match, I thought this was a fantastic show. I enjoyed almost everything except one match, which we will get to. I had some problems here, some small problems here and there that are just more nitpicks than anything else, but I overall enjoyed the show.
Sky?
Oh, trust me, there are many nits that can be picked with this show. Mm-hmm. But on the whole, I think this version of Survivor Series by Triple H was very good, and is a good first step to reviving a pay-per-view that should be one of the big four important pay-per-views that just doesn't feel like it anymore.
Let's just say that this show was way better than the past, like, 2 Survivor Series at least.
Well, to be fair to the 2020 version, it was in the Thunderdome. They didn't have a chance to be good.
Yeah. And it still had the wonderful send-off to The Undertaker that Sean loved so much.
Please do not bring that back up. that hurts me. That hurts me every time I think about it. It honestly, it gives me pain. But this show...
fuck you, Tyson Hill.
This show...
Don't know who that is.
It's... So, for those of you who are not understanding what's happening here, Skyler is also watching his team play, his football team play in the middle of this podcast because his focus as a co-host is always undivided on the Court-Martial podcast and is never doing other things at the same time as the Court-Martial podcast. But that's what's how you're being brought up to speed. And when the Sharks go out to try, I'm sure he'll have some comments for that too.
Or at least some wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yes. And he'll go, because he's a whale, and he'll, like, baleen some plankton, and that'll be...
It's ironic because we're playing Vancouver today, and they are the Canucks, a.k.a. the another version of whales.
Well, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of wrestling fans right now who could not give a shit about any of the sports that we're talking about. So
And I am one of them.
So let's try to steer this back, if we can, to professional wrestling. As far as the Survivor Series 22 goes.
What did you think of Survivor Series 22 overall?
I really have one statement, and it's, boy, storylines of substance really help this show, don't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Because JoshAgeddon, every time that I think of Survivor Series, I think back to something you called it like 4 years ago, which is it's the company softball game.
Yeah, like especially last year.
Took 95% of the people who were invested in the show out of the show because they don't care about Fox versus NBC. Never did, never will. They didn't care about red versus blue either. It's just, oh, what color t-shirt are you rooting for? Who are we going to have that the fans like that we could pin early to piss them all off? It was so formulaic.
Like, it was fun the first couple times, but after a while, it was just the same thing year after year, and it was just, like, it was like almost, it was more non-canon than the Saudi Arabia shows.
The only difference between the last 10 years of Survivor Series and bragging rights is that bragging rights doesn't sell as a pay-per-view name.
Yeah.
But that was really the only.
And in bragging rights, at least they got a trophy.
Yeah. And we all know how much
paraded around for like 2 weeks until Kane broke it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Kane breaks a lot of things, I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
He's done that from time to time. But we've got a very interesting show. It started out, I think, with the great Aussie intro, which was a nice throwback as far as the song is concerned. I thought it fit the theme well. It was one of the first times that their intros really wrapped me into the show as far as Aussie being there. And I thought he returned to London, but I guess he's like, I don't care, War Games, fuck it.
I 100% agree. I'm so sick of all of WWE shows starting with the modern poppy sounding music that just makes it sound, modern. I've missed wrestling shows starting with just some rock and roll.
Yeah, and Ozzy was a perfect guy to kind of sell that. And it was just nice to kind of feel like that old school vibe a little bit to it. Now, that immediately was dispelled during this opening match.
Yeah.
But that's just from my perspective. It's the Women's War Games, and I'm going to leave it to Sky to name all the participants. I couldn't be bothered to write them down.
Okay, so it's Team Bianca Belair, featuring Bianca Belair, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Min Shin, Mia Yim, and a returning Becky Lynch versus Team Damage Control led by Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Cross.
What is this Michan business? Why?
Well, they tried to rename her. It went poorly, but they're like, well, let's try to keep it on somehow.
It's just so dumb.
Basically, they're like, we're going to change her name, and then they realize, that sounds stupid, we'll just make it her nickname.
Well, thank God she wasn't named Chris, am I right? Think about it.
Oh, no. Oh, my soul. My soul. Ladies and gentlemen, look up Chris Chan. You will not be disappointed.
You will. You will be incredibly disappointed.
You'll be enthralled, and then you will begin to wonder if humankind was not a mistake.
Oh man,
Jesus! VeggieTales and from VeggieTales to Chris Chan. Welcome to our podcast.
Well, speaking of things that were mistakes, I did notice that they when they read off the rules for War Games, they didn't actually read the rules. They posted up the rules, and then Michael Cole's like, all right, well, there are a lot of rules for War Games over the years. Here are ours, but I'm not going to read them, so you read. I hope you can read.
When you watch the replay, you can pause at this point.
say what you want about Tenay and say what you want about Jim Ross, but when there was a tail of the tape or some rules that had to be read, they broke it down for the fans, and I felt like that was a missed opportunity here with Michael Cole.
Yeah, that is true.
But then we get into the match itself, and I gotta tell you, this show made me miss Mike Rome. Because I don't know who the hell this lady was, but she sounded like she was about to bust a nut every time she was announcing. Because she tried to, like, forcibly deepen her voice.
Yeah.
She's like, this goes, Ripley! And it just sounded terrible. And it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where at the final match, I'm like, I can't believe I'm missing Hamwich.
Wow.
To answer your question, her name is Samantha Irvin.
Well, she
might
change it
in a different profession, because I don't really care for a whole lot of her work here.
Change her name to Samantha Erkin, because she's Erkin Sean.
Yeah, I'd rather be up in my room Samantha Jerkin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Speaking of, goddamn Rhea Ripley. God damn.
I feel like every show now is just going to be Sean simping for Rhea Ripley.
I mean, I'll take him simping for Rhea Ripley over Corey Graves simping for Carmella.
How can you not love...
Well, it's the same thing.
Well, no, it is
No,
not.
it really isn't. It really isn't.
It is not the same thing. And to be fair, if I were Corey and I were getting Carmella on the reg, I'd be doing that too. As much as I hate it on my television, and besides, I'm not going to knock Corey and Carmella. They've been going through some shit lately, so...
Yeah.
At this point, I'm going to let them just keep doing what they're doing.
And speaking of which, before we really get into this match, Michael Cole and Corey Graves were on commentary. Just a two-man booth the entire show. They weren't, like, fantastic, but they didn't distract from the show. They did an adequate job.
Corey's a hell of a lot better when he doesn't have somebody to bitch at.
Yeah, when there's no Byron around.
Yeah. And because I feel like what happens with Corey is that when that happens, he tries too hard to heel.
Yeah, he really does.
It's
so obnoxious.
I think he's good with Cole just doing what he's doing, being more analytical, but also trying to provide a devil's advocate perspective for some of the heels without necessarily getting annoying about it.
I would rather the announcers, like on this show, to kind of just fade into the background where you can hear them, but I would rather them just kind of fade into the background than you just want to mute the TV because they're so incessant and annoying and they won't shut up. Like, I don't
think that's no worse this time.
It would be perfect if, like, they added to the show in a meaningful way, like the JR of old, back during the Attitude Era. But they're not at that level, so at the very least, they didn't detract from the show. And honestly, at this point, that's all I can ask for.
Well, I gotta say something, too, and then, we could start talking about the match. Because we talked about the announcing and about what's going on, especially with, like, JR of now, and we're talking about JR of old. And you say that they're not on par of JR of old. When you really get right down to it, nobody is.
That is true.
Nobody is. JR might just be, like, prime JR might be the greatest announcer of all time. And I love Gordon Soley, and I love Bill Watts, and Eric Watts exists. And there are a lot. And Mike Tenay is fantastic, and Lance Russell is good, and Tony Schiavone exists. But JR, in his prime, nobody sold athletes like JR. Nobody sold matches like JR. Nobody sold the show like JR. And I don't think there will ever be somebody who matches that.
And that's fine. Like, there shouldn't be another JR because that's what makes JR in his prime so special. And also, just to be clear real quickly, even JR in his prime made mistakes, and that's fine, okay?
Sure.
Even the best make mistakes. And that's, yeah. And sometimes the mistakes are even better than the things they were supposed to say. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Until recently with AEW, where JR's soul has been sucked out of his chest. And he's literally just there going, I'm a zombie.
I was JR. Now I'm here.
I don't even know anymore at this point. Let's see.
Well, can we start talking about the wrestling?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, we could talk for another, let's see, where are we at? We're at the 17-minute mark. we could talk for another 25 minutes and this match will still be going on.
That is true, yeah.
This match took forever. Holy Christ. And they did everything.
This was an AEW match.
This is unrestrictions. This is why Shawn Michaels cussed out fucking the Hurricane during a Raw taping when Hurricane did a choke slam and Shawn and Kane were in the main event. It's because of bullshit like this. Look, I love these women, but this match was a whole lot where it didn't feel like it had a whole lot of weight. It didn't really matter until the final, 2 minutes of this matchup, what anything had happened up to this point. And I like a lot of the women in it, but a lot of the women in it looked worse for this match. It brought the worst out of them where it brought the best out of the men. And this is no knock on the women in WWE because they have quite a few that I like, and you two both know that I like a lot of women's wrestlers in WWE. But this show made women's wrestling in WWE look bad.
I didn't hate this match as much as you, and I'm not saying you hated this match, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. Although I will say they did way too much in the opener, and it went on way too long. Just good God.
Well, here's the thing, is that the timing of War Games, because there's a 5-minute thing to start, and then every 3 minutes and everyone comes in, naturally the match is going to be long, and that's fine, it's whatever. You know the timing of the match is going to be forever. The problem with this is that this is a modern War Games match, because NXT, as much as the War Games matches were good there, had the same exact issue of let's get a bunch of spots in there, let's get a bunch of weapons in there, and the story doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And, it's something I've said before. I've said it for every goddamn gimmick pay-per-view this show has had since we've started doing pay-per-view reviews. One match is all you need if you're going to have a gimmick pay-per-view. One War Games. Not two.
I agree.
Money in the Bank. One Money in the Bank. Not two. Either the men or the women. I don't care which. Genuinely don't care which. If the story's good for the women, do it with the women. I'm not going to say one or the other. I don't care. Genuinely. This story's got to be there. This, I said, the first line I said in this Survivor Series 2022 list was, well, War Games is nice, but I bet I'll want just one match of this gimmick after it's all over. At the end of this match's notes, I wrote down, this had way too much and went way too long. One of these matches per show is plenty. Wow. All it took was one.
This would have been better if this was like the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match.
Yes. And I wouldn't have minded it if it was.
Because then it would be different gimmicks for the men and women. And
exactly.
Women could still do a lot of the things that they were allowed to do, just without the weapons to get involved, so the men could have some weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the men were going to do what they were going to do anyway with the tables and the chairs, nothing in this was necessary.
Yeah, and because they blew their wad during a lot of the spots in this match, especially the finish with Becky Lynch, when we got to the men's War Games match, when they were doing table spots, it got a little bit of a reaction, but could you imagine the reaction it would have gotten if we had not already seen table spots?
Yeah, exactly.
But
and
the
this
problem,
is the thing No, go ahead, Scott.
The problem is that the modern fan base has been trained for the expectation of quota spots. You can't go back, unfortunately, just with this group of fans because they expect these hardcore weapon spots. They expect all these things to happen.
Yeah,
which is why it would be so much more meaningful if they could show some goddamn restraint.
Yeah.
And I disagree, Scott. You can retrain the fans, but you have to take some shit away from them first so they can get mad at it and wait for it to show up the next time.
Exactly. You just have to have the ball. You just have to have the balls to stop doing this stuff. Yeah, at first, fans will be pissed and be like, this show's boring. No one went through a table. I want my table. Wait, my table. Yeah, you'll have a little bit of that at first, but after a while, you stop. They're less exposed to it. And then, when you have an opportunity to actually do it and have it mean something, then they're like, yeah, a table. Oh, my God, there's semen everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, how many times are we desensitized with all right, cue the announce table spot, all right, cue the barricade spot. Every pay-per-view, here we go.
It's to the point where you can predict when it happens.
Yeah, and that
I'll say this, though. They did subvert one spot that I thought they were going to do, and I was going to roll my eyes. They subverted the Tower of Doom.
Yes, when they started putting everyone on that one side of the wall, and I was like, oh my god, why did they have to do a Tower of Doom spot in every single multi-man match? But then they didn't.
Well, the thing was, I would say that the match was already kind of falling apart before the weapons even got into the equation. For example, the stuff at the beginning with Dakota and other female Bianca was okay. But there was like a weird miscue on like a handspring where Bianca looked like she was gonna like roll her up, but then like there was a pause, and then Bianca did like the handspring backflip. It was very strange, and then Dakota like completely whiffed a kick.
Yep.
Didn't look anywhere near it is, and then there was another angle. Oh, then there was the angle where Bianca's sitting like by the cage, and Dakota like brings her boot near Bianca Belair, and Triple H or Kevin Dunn, I don't know which one of the two of you is, but recently you've been making a really bad habit of choosing camera angles that makes your shit look less believable.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was the broski boot in the corner that looked like they were trying to make it like, oh, she kicked her in the face, but they got way too close. Like, zoom that shit out.
Yeah, they clearly, I mean, they're trying to get as intense in, but you can't do that in wrestling.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's not UFC.
Yeah.
And nobody is good enough to lay their shit in to make it look believable enough anymore.
It's like when you get a JPEG or a PNG off of Google, and you try to make it as detailed as possible, but you accidentally zoom in so far that you can see the watermark.
Yeah. And that's kind of how this whole first couple of matches, first things went. And then, here's another thing. Dakota Kai gets all this offense, and then Io Sky comes in to continue the double team, but doesn't it make more sense for the Raw Women's Champion to basically dominate Dakota Sky so that Io Sky can come in, or Dakota Kai so that Io Sky can come in and then start healing up with the numbers game, but it felt like it was like far too tit for tat for this opening scene, so that when the next heel came in, there was no heat to generate.
Yeah, and when Io came in, I felt so bad for her when she tried to do that kick in the corner, and she just could not get up because, like, she tripped a little once, and that just ruined the rest of the move, and she was just like, well, I screwed that up. But then she made up for it with the spring onto one rope where she walked across the ropes and then did a beautiful drop kick, so she made up for it with that.
Yeah, but it didn't undo the mess that was before. But this is also just everything up to this point was just sloppy. Not gritty, it's a struggle sloppy, but just sloppy.
We're going to do this move, but we don't exactly know how to do this move, and it makes everything look fake.
And yeah,
it wasn't that they didn't know how to do the move, it's just that they didn't time it right.
Yeah.
Or for Io example, this cage kept getting in the way of her being able to do stuff. But then it was just like there were points where they would do cool stuff, like Io walking across the turnbuckle and doing that hideous drop kick to Bianca Belair. Or Bianca Belair suplexing both Dakota and Io.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was nice too. And then Asuka shows up.
Oh god! But real quick, before we rip Asuka a new asshole, can we have a War Games match with Io Sky without her doing the moonsault off the top?
Nope.
Oh, that's later.
But still, she does it.
Joshua, complaint later. We have a lot to get through, okay?
Asuka sucks.
Yeah.
She's so terrible.
She wasn't always like this.
I have a feeling that if I just grabbed my grandmother, threw her in a ring, and said, wrestle, we'd get the same result.
I mean, Asuka's basically a grandma at this point.
She wrestles like one.
The thing is, it's like, her and Io Sky did this whole, like, basically like a 90 seconds of a women's New Japan match or a women's Japanese match for like 90 seconds, and the crowd went, okay.
The crowd went mild.
Now let me ask you two questions, because we had a number of women here from Japanese, who originally came from Japan. Do you think, with the women involved currently, that there is a Japanese star, a true Japanese star in WWE right now in the women's division? My statement is no. And I think that they had something with Asuka. They fed her to Charlotte, and it has been downhill since with her. And they cannot seem to get their grounding on anyone else.
Well, they have a lot of potential with Io Sky. They just need to get her away from Damage Control.
Hold on. Let's dissect. You a lot of things there. Whatever.
Sentences.
Skyler, get a bottle of water. Like, hydrate yourself.
Sean, what is your definition of star?
A big bowl of gas.
I don't know how to respond to that. My definition of star is someone that they can marketably back, who is a viable, good enough worker to be in a title match of consequence and actually be a champion that they could potentially frame pay-per-views around in the way that they did with Becky Lynch for a while. And I think there is a potential for it in WWE with how global their market is. I don't think that any of the women in WWE currently are capable of doing it, though.
I think Asuka, for a time she was until, Charlotte tapped her out. But more importantly, it's just like Asuka at this point, she's too old. I don't think her stuff doesn't look as good, and she's stagnated. I think she's fine in certain spots, but she's not good enough to be that star that you want to be. Io, you are hopeful, but Io is a spot monkey. As much as I love her, she's a spot monkey.
Yeah.
She's either going to look great or look terrible.
I
genuinely wasn't really impressed with Io in this match, to be honest with you, which is why I posed the question, because I'm like, is there any Japanese woman in WWE right now that can break that threshold? And I don't think there is.
They had something with Kairi Sane, but ironically, that ship has sailed.
Well, ironically, she wanted to stay in Japan because she was away for a long time, and during COVID, I understand.
Yeah.
I don't blame her.
It's one of those things where they need a Japanese star. Maybe they have to homegrown talent one, because the problem is that...
Who's Xia Li? No, wait, she's Chinese.
Huh?
Nothing. Ignore me.
I thought so. Anyways, the point is that...
I just said a white person thing. Just don't mind me.
I know, it's kind of like, that's what I thought you said.
The point is that they need the homegrown a woman from Asia, but there's not one that's in the system right now that's ready. And the problem with getting somebody from Japan is that if you get someone from Japan who has experience, there's possibly issue because miles on the body, especially because they work the strong style over in Japan.
Yeah.
Let's get to the real bad worker, because Asuka's bad. Let's get to when the match died for me. Nikki Cross.
Okay, before we get to Nikki Cross, did you notice when they changed the timer? And they cut the timer by 45 seconds. It was right after Asuka and Bianca Belair posed in the middle of the rings for no reason. They're like, yeah, get this money shot, because we're wasting time, because it's WWE. All right, let's get back to fighting. And it was like a minute and a half on the clock. They disappear from it. They go to fight the others, and not 10 seconds later, there's 44 seconds on the clock. I'm like, wait a minute.
I think I noticed that too, and I was focusing on the match, so I wasn't really paying attention to the clock, but I think I know what you're talking about.
I noticed, and WWE is notorious for this. They do it at the Rumble all the time. It just better helps the show ebb and flow. I'm not even knocking them necessarily for it.
No. The clock disappears at 51 seconds, and then when it comes back, it goes to 45.
And then Nikki Cross shows up.
Nikki Cross is dead to me.
But actually, you're right. That's the phase. It goes from 51 seconds to 10.
Yeah. It was noticeably different. So it's like, wait a minute. Wait a damn minute here. But in any case.
Anyways, can we get back to Nikki Cross so I can bash her?
Do we have to?
Yes, please. please go for it.
Well, before you bash her, we have to give her credit. At least when she did the big dive, this time she actually connected. She didn't miss.
Okay, Joshua, you missed the point. You missed the fucking point. You missed the fucking point. Man?
Yes.
It's sad.
Listen, I'm happy that Nikki Cross is no longer a stupid horse. I'm very happy that she no longer has to wear the stupid superhero outfit, even though it was really cool for a week or so. And she was a children's hero, but whatever. Nikki Cross going back to being crazy. I like that, because that was her original gimmick. And it's cool, somewhat. But all the hardcore garbage stuff with the weapons is bullshit. I'm tired of the trash can lids. I'm tired of the kendo sticks. And Joshua, yeah, she hit the dive, but everyone stood around and waited for her.
I know. The dive was ridiculous, but at least like at Money in the Bank a couple years ago, where she didn't get close enough and no one could catch her because she missed. At least they caught her this time. Like at the bare minimum, at least she hit it. Was it stupid? Yes, but at least she didn't screw it up this time. Baby steps.
Baby steps. But again, Nikki Cross was the worst woman in this match because everything she was doing was distracting to the match. Like, she gets a bunch of stuff, like trash cans and candlesticks, and hits people with it, and then decides to hit people with her jacket?
Because she's crazy, Skyler.
Listen, I've dated bitches that are crazier than Nikki Cross.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know which one of the following statements is going to be the coldest, but I'm going to say them all and you be the judge. First of all, as we've said many, many times, weapons and screaming are not a gimmick. How many times have we said that over the years? Always pertaining to women.
Yes.
A lot.
A lot.
All the time. No different with Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross is discount Daphne.
Ooh.
Ooh. I need to find a blanket after that one.
It takes a special kind of suck to be the one person insanity that was left behind. Nikki Cross sucks. She's not good in the ring. She's not good on the mic. She has no personality that isn't manufactured and fake. Get this woman off my television. She is not good. I don't know what Triple H saw in her. I don't know what... Clearly, Vince didn't see anything in her, and it took Nikki Cross being, well, let me act like a toddler for Vince to go, you know what? I like that. Let's do that. Because she is not capable of having any sort of success as a wrestler that you can get behind, as a wrestler you want to see succeed, and the only time that anyone gave a fuck about her was that Alexa Bliss was so good of a heel that she could have made anyone look good in comparison.
I 100% agree.
Nikki Cross shouldn't have been here. Nikki Cross is just a crazy Liv Morgan. And both of them can fuck right off and get off my television.
Basically, yeah. Basically, yeah.
Well, they do have a purpose. They need somebody to be a jobber, and she's a perfectly good jobber.
Then why was she in this match?
There are jobbers who can work better than these two. You get jobbers who can work. You don't need people just spending 2/3 of the time that they're supposed to be in the ring wrestling just grabbing furniture.
Nikki can't even put something in a trash can.
So that the crowd could chant the chant.
See, this is what I mean when I say that the fans need to die.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to live, Sky. Let's not.
This is the podcast where Skyler advocates for genocide.
No.
I'm not advocating for genocide. I'm just saying for the fans to die. I'm not saying how many. I'm just saying they need to die.
But
I would say that Nikki Cross's WWE career needs to die.
Agreed.
Before the fans do.
Yeah.
Here's the hard part: is that there are not that many women's wrestlers out there. The pool for men's wrestlers is shallow. The pool for women's wrestlers is even more shallow.
Then might I make a suggestion on behalf of people who are trying to run these wrestling promotions?
Sure.
Equity is more important than equality. And what that means is that just because here are a lot of women's wrestlers doesn't mean that every women's wrestler should be a women's wrestler on your show. Which means if you have a women's roster that has half of the people that the men have, but those women are good wrestlers, then you may only need 7 or 8 people in the divisions total. By the way, 1 women's title. We're combining the rest of them. Just do it with all of them. Just we don't need this anymore.
Please.
Like just merge it. You don't have the depth. You may have people, but you don't have the depth. And if you cut every woman on this roster, save for the horsewomen, Bianca, Rhea, and maybe like 5 or 6 prospects that you're in the middle of working, this division would hit 1,000 times better.
Exactly. There are far more.
The value of those people not just having warm bodies on the show. Equality doesn't mean shit if all the women do sucks. It makes all the women look worse and further proves misogynists right when they say that men are better wrestlers than women, which is not true. But it fulfills that narrative when you do shit like this.
There are more bad female wrestlers on the roster than good female wrestlers. And that shouldn't be the case. And it makes the entire show look amateur hour.
Yeah, but I'll say this. At least WWE has a better females roster than AEW does because they've actually put the investment into it. It's a lot better than the Diva days, and you can tell that Triple H is going to make it one of his priorities. It's just that, just like everything else we say with Triple H, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'm not saying that Triple H is incapable of that. I'm just saying that we are getting to a point where we're going to have to look at women's wrestling at something of a crossroads. Because it's going to run the risk of being irreparably damaged, I think, if every time we get a show like this, the biggest thing to critique is always the women's matches.
Yeah, and it's been like this for like what? How many years? How many years has...
It's exactly my point. For every success they've had, they set themselves back by putting a women's Money in the Bank where Nikki Ash spends 45 seconds to pose and miss a dive on. You know, how is on the same show, and I'm not sure that this was exactly on a show, but how is Bianca and Becky in a one-on-one, which we've all universally agreed was a terrific feud, and they always had good matches and they had good chemistry. How are you supposed to feel like that value, which is very high, is worth the same value as the complete dumpster fire, easily worst match on the card? Not tonight, but the worst match on the card when it's on the same card. You have Bayley and Bianca, or Bianca and Becky, be the only women's match on that show, and everybody values women's wrestling more because of it.
Exactly. And I 100% agree. Like, when I was watching this match, and even before I started watching this match, I knew it was going to be this, and it's just like, you don't have the talent necessary for the women to have these multi-woman gimmick matches. Like, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, it's never good. The women's Royal Rumble match, it's never good. The women's War Games match, I enjoyed this, but it really detracted from the more important War Games match that was later on in the show. Because they so badly want the PC brownie points, they are willingly sacrificing the quality of their show because they don't want to be called sexist.
But I will say this, though. I feel like if there's anyone who's going to try to tighten that up, it will be Triple H. I hope he is a little bit more discretionary with the type of women that he likes and promotes on the show on that basis. And as Sky said, Sky, you're absolutely right. These things do take time. Who knows what 2024 is going to look like in WWE's women's division? But right now, this is a problem. And it is still a problem, and it's going to take time to fix, but they have to fix it.
Out of curiosity, just for you guys' perspectives, what do you think of Mia Yim when she got into this match? And what do you think of her in general? Is she one of those ones that has potential, or do you think is she just going to be like a depth piece?
I would keep her purely as like a veteran gatekeeper for people you're trying to get over. She does not have star power. I don't really care when she's on screen, but she's not bad. She knows what she's doing. You just need to put her in the right environment.
I don't think I've seen enough of Mia Yim to be able to say one way or another. This is not the match for me to do that kind of evaluation. You know, give me a one-on-one Mia Yim match, and I will critique and then give you a better answer on that. Nobody looked good as a result of this match. I don't care who won and who lost, but you can't tell 6 ways from Sunday who looks like what in a match like this. And
except Rhea Ripley looked fucking like a monster.
Yeah, she did.
I will say, I'm happy.
And
I will say this: I'm happy that she actually wrestled because this is the first time that she's actually wrestled a proper match in a long time.
well, she had a
Not
match.
true.
She had a match
Not
on
true.
Raw to win the advantage for the heels.
Also not true. She returned at some NXT they were trying to fight AEW with and wrestled a full-blown match and won. I forget who she was against, but she did wrestle recently on the same NXT that Nakamura made his return. And I can't remember which one it was, but it was about, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago. Rhea made her return. This is her first main roster pay-per-view return on a big stage. And in that respect, it was really nice to see her back.
Yes.
And I do also
But
have to say,
I'm going to say right now, Joshua, that match that happened on Raw, you can't give me the watch Monday Night Raw right now.
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I know. I haven't watched it either. I just watched the YouTube highlights because, I mean, Raw had the honeymoon phase with Triple H now being in charge, and there were some good episodes of Raw, but now it just feels like it's starting to decline again. Because the show's too long.
and that's not going to change, too, unfortunately. That's something that they're not planning on ever really undoing. But I don't even think it's just the length. I think that they are deciding what they want to prioritize as far as remedying, and I'm like, they're probably like, the TV shows are going to stay on TV. We don't really necessarily need to worry too badly about these. We have a lot of other core problems to address. Let's start with those, and we'll work on the shows later. We're not pissing off either brand right now, either network, so we'll just keep the shows running. They're happy with what's on, even though half the people can't watch it, but we will improve them soon enough.
Right, and when something is not, and one of the networks gets pissy about something, we'll throw them a random Brock Lesnar appearance. Or
That's
we'll
right.
throw them a random John Cena appearance or whatever.
Where's
Exactly.
Goldberg? Where's Goldberg?
Yeah, they can tide that over for a little bit. I was happy seeing Alexa Bliss look like a normal human being, and she got a halfway decent pop, and it was nice to see that.
No Lily doll.
It was refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of why I wanted the Alexa Bliss that I made in ACPW, because I think she still got it. I think that she just has been marred by garbage past couple of years to where we all couldn't see it.
Yeah, and I agree.
But it takes a special kind of talent to make a feud with Nia Jax feel important, and to make a feud with Nikki Cross feel important. Alexa Bliss has got the skill.
That is a
When
Hercules.
you
That
put her
two.
in, I'm gonna lap dance Randy Orton to no fans, and then have a halfway crispy fiend come out of the mat. That thing start getting sideways.
Jesus Christ, that happened.
But yes, again, Rhea Ripley's butt cheeks are fine.
And so is her work, and that's the thing I love the most. She's so much more than just a pretty face and body. She's got so much.
But she has a pretty damn good body.
Yes, she does.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Sean, if Rhea Ripley came to you right now in that outfit, we wouldn't be able to talk to you for like 3 days, man.
Yeah, I'd be done. My butthole would be hurt, and I'd be a happy man.
And then Becky Lynch immediately
the discomfort.
Immediately changes the match.
Oh man, that was great. By the way, we missed over a moment that made me laugh out loud, where like 7 women all have kendo sticks, and they're all just flapping each other like a Yakety Sax episode. It just made me laugh. I don't know what it was. Just the visual of seeing 7 women just lightly hit each other with kendo sticks was just ridiculous.
That's another thing. Skyler, you said you groaned when Nikki started introducing the weapons. Like, I was like, they can't hit each other hard enough with these weapons. That's another thing. Like, they're so gentle with each other. There's no impact. There's no oomph. It's like watching a pillow fight.
Yeah, and also, fuck Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman for ever bringing kendo sticks into the equation of pro wrestling. If I never see a kendo stick so long as I live, I will be a happy man. Not as happy as a Korean plugged in my butthole, but I will be a happy man.
I was about to say, Sean.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that we have to get angry at Tommy Sabu for introducing the kendo stick. We have to get mad at the Devon and Bubba for bringing in the tables. We have to get mad at ECW for everything. So fuck Paul Heyman is the answer.
I know, but he's so good.
Fuck his business. Fuck his business practices.
Yeah, well, yes. As a promoter, yes, I won't disagree with you there. He's a hell of a talent, but it's quite like Bischoff. But as a promoter,
Me personally, I love the weapons, but I'll say they are used way too much.
Well, introduce new weapons.
It doesn't.
Why can't we bring guns to the ring while we're at it?
Or thumbtacks.
Why? Because you're gonna shoot the fan sky? Is that what we're
Yes.
But here's the thing. But I wouldn't have a problem with the weapons if these matches and the show wasn't so sterile.
Yeah.
Right? Weapons don't feel like weapons when you can't really see the damage done by them. And not that I'm saying I wanted these women to get juice. That's not it. I would have preferred the women not to use the weapons at all and just left it for the men and have the men get juice. But it's hard to invest, for me, it's hard to invest in these gimmick matches with the cells and the cages and seeing people get lawn darted in the cages when you can't see any of that damage. And it doesn't look like they do any of that damage. They get launched, they wait, they do their next spot. It's so clean. And that's why when this show is so clean and sterile, it's so jarring for the work to be sloppy.
I have a question. When's the last time a woman actually bled in WWE?
On purpose?
On purpose.
Well, I don't remember on purpose. I can remember 3 instances, 1 old and 2 relatively new.
I know of
two
2
relatively new ones.
The 2 relatively new ones were Nia Jax punching Becky in the face.
That's one.
And the other one is when, I don't know what happened to the back of Beth Phoenix's head, but then during the Rumble when she just had a big gusher all through her bleach blonde hair.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 that I remember the most. Beyond that, it was Lita with the thumbtack mandible claw.
Yeah.
To answer your question, it was when basically Charlotte gave her a punch to the back of Beth Phoenix's head during that Rumble, and it basically cut her because of the way she fell and hit the mat.
Yeah.
I also, there was also an episode of Main Event where I think it might have been Dana Brooke versus someone, and she got her head, she got kicked in the back of the head, and she headbutted the ring post, and it split her open.
Oof.
And also, let's not forget the last time a woman bled on purpose was when Shayna Baszler became a vampire.
Oh, yeah!
The Twilight Saga, featuring Shayna Baszler.
Do not mention her, please.
Yeah, because Shayna Baszler right now in ACBW is a badass champion, but for some reason is the lesser MMA fighter of 2 shitty MMA fighters.
But Sean, you've got to. She's got to be thirsty. You got to let her bite someone. She's thirsty. You don't want her to die, because she's a vampire.
Well, apparently,
let her bite Rhea Ripley while we're at it. Make it hot at least.
TNP today. So, in any case, we get to this thing. They do this Tower of Doom that they were getting ready for, and at this point, as I was watching the ref, as I think it was Nikki. I forget who it was. I think it was Bailey comes in, and then she brings in more weapons. And seeing the ref there, I'm like, they ought to be wearing bellhop outfits. Like, they're not refereeing. He's literally just opening the door going, okay, do whatever you want. All right, I'm going to close the door now. Okay.
Wait, when did Bailey bring in more weapons?
Yeah. It's literally like, why is he even in a ref's outfit? He literally should have a fez.
I think Bailey's the one that brought in the tables.
Yes. But what was the purpose of having that referee outside? What was he doing?
Holding the door.
Wait, hang on. They got the table, but they hardly ever used it.
Yeah, they used it for the finish.
Yeah, which at this point, I mean, I don't know what was up with Rhea's spray paint sideburns.
Yeah, that was. They are so determined to make all the attractive women in this company look hideous with the makeup. It is so annoying.
I think Ronda Rousey just recently made a comment about it too.
Oh, we'll get to Ronda's makeup later. Good God.
Even she was like, "What the fuck are we doing here? Like, what is this makeup. Like, it makes every woman's natural beauty look like a goddamn Yu-Gi-Oh card. That's the, because Ronda Rousey plays a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, and
by the way, we can now make fun of the fact that Io Sky has to jump off the cage every single War Games match.
Stop doing it. Like, at least she didn't have a trash can on her head this time when she did the moonsault, but Io, find a different spot to do. Please.
And then Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss do the handcuff. I just, rolled my eyes so far. The Undertaker said hello.
That spot with the handcuffs was so random and nothing came from that. It was just, why bother? It literally was just wasting time.
Well, before we get to that, can we just take a moment to talk about how great Rhea Ripley's selling is of that mist that you couldn't see?
Yes.
But boy, Rhea sure looked like she got it, and her selling is just so good. Every little small piece of body language she's got is great, and it's wonderful. Then now we do the fucking handcuffs. We're 45 minutes into this debacle.
Well, actually, before the handcuffs, we had another one of my least favorite spots in the match. When they started doing superplexes from all 4 of the corners. And I was like... 4
out of the 8 corners, Josh, again.
Yeah. But
they weren't even all 4 corners, and they weren't even timed.
Yeah, like they didn't even do it all at the same time. It was like, you do a superplex. You do a superplex. I do a superplex. And then apparently Asuka German superplexes Io Sky, but we don't see it because Kevin Dunn's too busy pointing at something else while a suplex.
Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross were doing their suplex, and Asuka went too early.
Yeah, it was so badly timed.
Which already, just kind of on premise, that whole premise is so staged.
Yes, and that's why I hated it.
Just prep ourselves up. Let's all get ready up here in the corner. All right, you ready to suplex? I'll just be over here, not actually hitting them, just kind of watching until your suplex is done.
Yeah.
And then I'll do mine. It's just, it's so contrived.
Yeah, and that's why I hated it.
We're 45 minutes in. I'm like, fucking hell. Just end this.
Yeah.
And then they get these handcuffs that are bigger than Alexa's fucking head.
Yes.
And she knew it. And she knew it, too, because if you noticed, as Nikki is just fiddle fucking around doing whatever the fuck she's doing, Alexa Bliss is holding that handcuff to her wrist, knowing the camera's going to catch the fact that they're too big. So she's literally trying to keep her hand in front of the camera so nobody will notice that these handcuffs were made for fucking Magilla Gorilla. And then fucking Nikki, who gives a fuck what her last name is at this point? Just get off my goddamn television.
Jesus.
And they handcuff to each other, and then they do the obviously spray-painted wood ladder spot.
Yay.
And then, just to put an icing on the cake, they do a San Jose Sharks fight.
You mean a hockey fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. And the thing I wrote down is Cornette skipping the fuck out of this. And boy, I was about to fast forward, but if we had already gotten here at this point, then they do this finish here where Bianca does a KOD on the cage that just looked bad.
Yeah, only Bayley's knees connected with the cage.
They're playing the Ric Flair theme song at the Sharks game?
Maybe.
Really?
Nobody else is watching, Sky. You're the only one with this information.
I'm still not sure exactly what sport this is.
This is pro wrestling.
Space Odyssey. What the hell?
I am trying to do damage control on this podcast before it's deader than the damage control faction.
Yeah.
Was killed at this show.
Oh my God! Wait a second. We forgot to ask the most important question. Was there a collar and elbow tie-up at the beginning of this epic voyage?
Yes, there was. Pleasantly enough, yes, there was.
Okay, cool. We have one on the night. One on the night so far.
It was the best part of the match. Honestly, it was.
Yeah.
Because the finish was blah, and the baby faces won, and the crowd was exhausted, just burnt out.
Yeah.
They weren't even that excited. They were just burnt out because they did so much, and it was like 50 minutes in before we went to the first commercial.
Jeez.
Why? Why any of this?
WWE.
Nobody looked This made nobody look good. This did nothing for the people who were supposed to be the ones changing the narrative around WWE, and you literally beat them into powder.
WWE, stop bookending these shows. Stop bookending these shows with these matches. Just have one.
Now, what I thought was going to happen, what I thought perhaps should have happened, was that they were going to do with Becky Lynch what WCW did with Kurt Hennig in War Games 97. Where he's the last one in, he's the stalwart for WCW, he's returning, he's coming back, they finally get him in, he gets into that ring, he's ready to go, bam, nails Ric Flair. And all of a sudden he's joined the NWO. How insanely intense would it be if we got to that moment where it's Damage Control and we got that face apart from Belair and Becky, and I know everyone wants Becky to be a babyface here, but this would have been a time for it. This would have been a time, and I know Becky and Bianca, again, you don't need to necessarily do it right away, but having Becky and Bayley be the ones running a 4-person Damage Control so that faction isn't completely dead in the water.
And also, speaking of that, Sean, you could even give decent motivation, because remember how desperate Becky Lynch was to win back the Raw Women's title, and then she lost again at SummerSlam? She'd be desperate enough to join Damage Control.
Except for the part where Damage Control broke her arm, so why would she join them?
That is also true.
Well, maybe Bianca Belair broke her spirit, which is more damaging. You can heal from a broken arm, but you'll always live with a broken spirit until you make the moves necessary to heal that spirit. And the only thing that's going to heal my spirit, I tell you what now, is that Raw SmackDown Women's Championship or Raw Women's Championship. I don't care which one you have. I don't care which Cody you got.
Going to rip off Bianca's bread and beat her with it.
I'm just saying there would have been an opening for that in this match that could have turned the perception of how this match went around. And instead, they kind of just stayed the course, and they went safe, and I don't like the fact that they went safe. And after a 50-minute match of slog, safe was not the move to go.
But Sean, this was not the storyline War Games match.
Josh, again, you speak.
This was not the storyline War Games match. That was later on in the show. This was the Spot Fest War Games match. If you came here for storyline progression, you have to wait for later on in the show.
Then don't do this match.
Also, there's that, and that was my boss Cass impression from the Phantom Menace. Now you go, Skyler.
I think we all did a pretty good one of those, actually.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Sky.
Okay, but here's the thing. Timeline. Becky Lynch is a heel for most of 2021 and 2022 as Raw Women's Champion. Until Bianca beats her, and she doesn't turn face until SummerSlam. And then Damage Control breaks her arm. She comes back as a babyface, goes heel again. Sean, as much as I hate to say it, that would be too many turns too quickly. You would be big showing Becky Lynch if you made her turn heel on Bianca here.
I think that Becky Lynch would handle it better than the Big Show. And I think that you could definitely still make lengths for that until you give Becky a reason to not. I mean, I personally don't think right now that a babyface Becky Lynch is really going to move the needle any in people's investment in her.
Unless she faces Ronda Rousey.
Well, yeah, and I mean, is that really the match you want right now?
Nope.
I mean, exactly. Mixed response. That's what I'm expecting. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that you had to do it. I'm not saying that there aren't flaws to the logic. But there had to be something in this match to give it some juice. Because otherwise, this match was just long and boring, and it didn't mean anything, and it just hurt the people in it. And I'd rather have quality women's matches than obligatory women's matches.
I 110% agree.
And then we get a nice shot of Paul Heyman in the background and Roman Reigns in the foreground. And I gotta say, normally I don't like the backstage segments that they do. I love everyone they did tonight because they all had a purpose and it all gelled very well with what story they were telling at the last match of the show.
any backstage segment involving Roman Reigns or anyone in the bloodline is gold. It's just depending on the people that are involved and what type of gold you're mining. In this one, it is 50-karat gold because Paul Heyman barely talking, but just his reactions in the background is amazing.
It was so funny too, and Paul Heyman has mastered the art of toadying. When he's like, wise man, he's like, yes, my tribal chief.
Yes.
He just kills me. I love Paul Heyman.
He's a religious zealot, and Roman Reigns is his god.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, they have a conversation about what happened on SmackDown, and Jey Uso seeing Sammy talk to Kevin, and Roman's like, Paul, make the call.
And I loved that, and, you know, it put me in a better mood after that whole first thing, and then I'll tell you both, I went into this wanting to dislike it, and when the time the match was over, I couldn't. Because this was a pretty good match. All things considered, it's a pretty good match. It's AJ Styles versus Gimp Balor.
Versus Voldo.
And yes, exactly. And when I'm gonna deep cut. I'm gonna deep cut here with Finn Balor because everyone knows I don't love Finn Balor, but I will give him the credit. But this made me laugh. He takes the Gimp mask off, and this is the thought that occurred to me. Finn Balor looks like the Shrek 2 video game leprechaun.
What?
So in Shrek 2, the video game, every so often you run into this little motherfucker who gives like some riddle, or he asks you to like complete a challenge, or you have to pay gold from the path so you can pass through the gate, or you can like buy power-ups from him. He shows up in a lot of different areas, but Finn Balor looks almost exactly facially like this dude, and it occurred to me during that, and I was like, oh my god, I can't unsee it now. and then AJ comes in an even more ridiculous looking mask, and I'm like, why?
Well, these were their leftover masks from Halloween.
I know, apparently, but I do have to say, I do like the fact that Triple H is letting Michael Cole add some history from other companies to these matches to sell the matches.
Yes. And it's also hilarious that they were referencing, like, the original Bullet Club from, like, God knows how many years ago. And the Bullet Club is desperately...
It's literally been 10 years.
But the Bullet Club is still trudging along today. For reasons.
Yeah. Why? Who knows? Who cares? We don't. Not even New Japan does really anymore. They're... Like it kind of, I get the vibe that they're pretty much over that gimmick because it's just been there constantly. We got a color-double tie-up, so we were 2 for 2 on the night. Let's start with Sky. Your overall thoughts on this matchup?
Good but long.
Yeah, you were a little bit more taken about the length of this match than I was, but it's understandable given WWE's format.
Yeah, it was difficult because it's a good match. Like, AJ and Finn are going to have a good match. That's not a problem. And there's not going to be anything, like... It's just, story-wise, I'm not feeling it. It's just, the Judgment Day, to me... I can't get into their stuff. It's hard. Without Rhea Ripley there, too.
The Judgment Day needs a proper leader. Finn Balor is not that leader. That's
that
really
leader. It was Edge.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then they wanted to do Spookily Dookly, and Edge is like, nah. So they turned him back babyface. And, you know, I don't know what it is that they don't see Damian Priest being like the major talker for that, or whatever the case is. I would have thought that he would have been the guy they framed this around. But it's
well, if anything, Rhea Ripley's the leader of Judgment Day.
She should be, by all rights, she is, but they're trying to make it Finn Balor, and I just don't see that. But not to take anything away from this match, for what I usually expect out of Finn Balor, I thought this was one of his better outings. I didn't feel nearly as much like we got formulaic Finn. You know, I liked them going tit for tat with similar moves through this, but it wasn't as fast-paced as these two could have gone. So they did take their time with it to some extent, so it didn't feel like it was going 100 miles an hour all the time, which is what I was afraid would happen. But I don't like the fact that the lackeys just fought off, because that's just lazy.
Yeah, that was my only problem with this match, because as soon as they started fighting, I was like, and there they go, to the back, never to be seen or heard from again. That was the one thing.
You knew they were going to do it.
Yeah.
You knew they would, but I'm not going to be upset with limited interference. But
what they could have done, what I would have done, they start brawling, the referee gets mad and ejects all of them. That would have been better.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, but let's not break down semantics of very obvious things they could very easily fix. Right
as infuriating as it is.
Yeah. Balor could use more sting in his punches. The punches aren't bad, but they don't look like they've got real sharp emphasis to them. They don't look bad. They just don't look like they do anything. But I do have to say, I really liked the hip toss counter into the abdominal stretch.
Oh, that was so good. Like, he just planted his feet, countered the hip toss, and just sank that in. And I was like, oh, that was good. And also, my favorite thing in this match was Finn's selling of the leg. I thought he did very well selling the leg throughout the entire match. And everything that he did, he would favor the leg, and you could tell that it wasn't having as much impact as he wanted, basically giving AJ the advantage throughout the entire match.
Yeah. And that was, I give Balor credit. Like I said, this is one of his better outings for me. But in general, we need fewer suplexes into the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
It's over. It's dead. Like every other move on the planet, it's dead. Let's do it less.
And one thing real quick that another thing that I liked, usually in like big grudge matches, they'll do each other's finishing moves. They didn't do that tonight. I mean, Finn teased going for the Styles Clash, but he didn't get it. I love that they started using each other's regular moves.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like you'd get one, and then the other one would come back, 2 minutes later. Though later in the match, he would come back with it. So it wasn't necessarily like right after the first person did that move. They would wait a little while. Almost reminded me of how Brett would place his shit in different spots.
Exactly.
Every one of his matches, and I respected that from these two.
Like Finn did that reverse DDT elbow swipe that he does, and then later on, AJ Styles went for his moonsault DDT, which always looks gorgeous. But he stopped for a second, and then, just to be a dick, did Finn Balor's move out of that, and I love that.
Yeah. And then that's kind of what I'm talking
AJ doing the Pele kick, followed by Finn Balor doing the Pele.
Oh, I also love that spot.
Yeah, because they built this very well. I have to say, and again, a lot of my criticism about Finn is not necessarily that he's bad in ring. He's not. He's quite good in ring. It's other things about him that I don't really care for. But I really didn't have much to say about this match. I didn't write a lot down because there really wasn't a whole lot to critique. Because all in all, it was pretty solid. I will say though, Finn Balor slamming AJ's head on the calf crusher is not nearly as effective as when Brock Lesnar did it.
Yeah, yeah. When Finn does it, it's like oh, he's getting out of the hold. When Brock does it, it's like, dear God, someone go in and save AJ before he dies.
Yeah, it's like fucking Lenny holding a puppy of mice and men.
Oh God!
Jesus Christ!
What? Now that's a deep cut.
Yeah. Also, can we go ahead and make the women look like shit again?
Yes.
Go for it. No, you mean moving on?
No. I mean, the women get weapons and like steel cage, and it doesn't look like they do anything. Finn Balor and AJ Styles wrestle a regular match, and Finn gets some nasty bruises on his back.
And he gave AJ Styles a big chop near the end of the match, and you could see like Finn's handprint on AJ.
They were laying it in, man.
Yeah.
It was snug.
And to that point, Skyler, these guys had 18 minutes and 25 seconds, and it was just them, and they so badly outdid everything that came before them in the past hour with a cage and plunder. and top of the cage spots that you see in every cage match. It's crazy how much better this match was than the opener.
Yeah. No, it was sizably.
Yeah.
And honestly,
a regular singles match is better than a gimmick cage match. Who the fuck?
Well, that doesn't necessarily always. It's not always the case. I mean, my last word on this matchup, because all in all it was pretty good. The Styles Clash will always be a better finish for me than that phenomenal forearm.
Agreed. But I will say, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was kind of like...
No.
I loved the finish because it just felt like, oh, AJ got the advantage, and then he hit his move, and then he won. There was no like, oh, he countered his finishing move to hit his finishing move, and then he won. It's not a kind of finish that they normally do in WWE matches. A guy gained control, was able to hit his move, and he won because he hit his move. It was like, it's hard to describe because they barely do it. It was like playing a wrestling game, and you build momentum, you get your signature, you hit your finisher, and then you win. Because the other guy can't kick out. It was like that, and I loved it.
Remember when we were talking about restraint?
Uh-huh.
That can happen in finishes, too. Not every finish has to be a work of art.
Yeah.
Most of the time it ends up looking like a Picasso with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes just a meat and potatoes finish is plenty to get your belly full.
Literally all this was AJ just won the match, and that was it. And it was great.
And that's okay. That's okay. And besides, AJ, I think, really needed this because even they kind of said it in the feud that AJ was looking and feeling a bit stagnant of late. And I think that with Finn technically making Edge quit and then AJ getting the win over Finn, it just kind of bolster his stock back up a little bit. The crowd is always behind AJ. Always has been. In WWE, they've always been behind AJ Styles, and this felt like this was kind of progressing AJ in a way that you'd still want AJ to still feel actively important, especially knowing that we're probably not going to get much more AJ in the next few years.
Speaking of AJ...
Styles has not won a pay-per-view match in the last 3 years.
God damn it, Skyler, I was just about to say that. You stole my thunder.
Wow.
How dare I try to outstat the statistician.
Well, you can't outstat me, 18-25-second man.
Well, when you're stuck in fucking Omos Purgatory, what the hell are you supposed to do?
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Purgatory, do we have to talk about this next match?
It's purgatory for you, but this would be hell for me, which is why I didn't watch it. So I'm going to let you two talk about this match. I saw who was involved, and I put in big bold letters, oh, hell no.
Oh, God.
I wasn't watching this. I didn't see the clip of the botch. I don't care. I'm not going to care. And there's only one thing worse than the ever since I was a little girl storyline, and that's I've been bullied my whole life. Fuck you. Everyone's been fucking bullied. It's high school. Everyone's a bunch of catty bitches in high school. So I don't want to hear it. It's a sob story that everyone goes through, but it's not relatable anymore because nobody who says it actually, whether they've had it go through them or not, nobody's believable in saying it. And you think I'm going to find sympathy for you facing Ronda fucking Rousey when you drive a toy tank to the ring? Go fuck yourself. I said no to this whole thing. I don't regret saying no to this whole thing. So, Sky, for this match, the floor is yours and JoshAgeddon's. I'm going to calm down.
I so badly... I don't even need to say much about how much I can't stand Shotzi, because you just summed it up perfectly. She's I know that Skyler said... When I said that she was like a gothic or emo Liv Morgan, and Skyler, of course, was like, punk rock. Same difference, who cares? Same difference, who cares? They are the lame gothic dorks that we have to deal with in high school. Like, I had some gothic friends, but they're always like, no one understands me. I hate my mom. Yeah. It's a gimmick. It's a brand. You make people that genuinely feel these things, like, feel like it invalidates that experience because you're wearing it like a Halloween costume. And that's Shotzi.
I bought a $48 pair of skinny jeans, and I got a My Chemical Romance t-shirt out of a grab bag at Hot Topic. Look how edgy I am.
Yeah, Shotzi is one of those dumb high schoolers that thinks that they're so edgy. It's just that she's never grown out of that. It's like, I can translate this into a gimmick in wrestling. The problem is she's not a good wrestler. Don't you ruin Monster Energy for me, good sir. I swear to God.
Blackheart looks like a Monster Energy can.
Don't ruin it for me. I drink those. I had one today. I swear to God, if I turn on SmackDown and Shotzi has some kind of Monster Energy brand deal, I will kill myself.
Oh, Sky, that was great. Sky, I don't know.
I mean, look at her fucking hair. It's the same color as the Monster Energy logo.
Yeah, and she has like she wears black clothes and she has tattoos all over because she does look like a humanoid monster can.
Yeah, Jessica, let me ask you a question. If she comes out in a mini tank and it's got the Monster logo on the side, would that influence whether you drink Monster going forward?
That would influence whether or not I see the rest of my life, because I might just climb on top of my roof and jump off.
Okay, let me add to that. Let's say that she's got the green Monster slashes going down, and then Ronda Rousey came to the ring, and instead of her usual wingtips, she had the blue Monster Energy logo on the sides of her face. And then literally every other wrestler all night literally has a Monster logo somewhere on their face, and the show is promoted by Red Bull.
Okay, but
We call this pay-per-view would be called Heartstopper or something like that.
Yes.
Can we go back for a second?
Ginseng.
Can we go back for a second? You know the reason why I want to protect goths and not give them that distinction? Because Rhea Ripley is a goth and she's fucking hot, so...
Well, I can buy it from Rhea Ripley because she's like legit. She doesn't drone on about how gothic she is. She just wears it and she's like, I'm Rhea Ripley, I like this, and I'm also me. I'm cool, I'm hot, I beat up people.
Kind of to add on top of that, there's a huge difference between true goth and poser goth.
Yes.
Or emo goth, which is a completely different subsection where it's like, the goth is like, I'm dark and I like being dark, but I find that a lot of goth people are genuinely happy. And then there's emo people who are just like, I'm goth and sad and I look goth and sad because I want the attention for looking goth and sad. And that's what Shotzi is, and that's why I could not have given a single fuck about this match. All right, have fun, boys.
And that was before the match even started. Good God, this was a train wreck.
It was just for seeing the title screen of the two people involved.
Dude, I had to park because I was out door dashing last night when the show was on, and you guys were live reacting to it. Your message to the group chat was like, "Wait, this is a match? Why? Who booked this?" I thought that was so funny. I had to park before I crashed into something because I was laughing so hard.
Because I didn't know.
And that's why it was so funny.
Yeah, it's...
And also, I'm disappointed in you, Sean, because you didn't see the botch.
Don't, Sean, save yourself. It is so bad. Basically, Shotzi tries to do an AEW-style tornado DDT on the apron, the hardest part of the ring. Shotzi goes through with the spot, but Ronda, stops midway through and just crumples into the fetal position on the apron and then awkwardly falls to the floor. And everyone was just like, oh. Well, that was disappointing.
Shame on whoever booked this match. Why are they booking Ronda Rousey with people who can't work? Ronda Rousey can barely work.
Whose idea was that? Can you imagine?
Hold on. Can we stop for a second? There's not enough women on the roster to book Ronda Rousey versus anybody.
Then don't have her as your fucking champion.
Maybe build her up versus Shayna instead of having Shayna be an asshat.
I mean,
maybe that's what they're planning on doing, but I don't know.
Oh, here's the thing. Okay, first off, this match did not start with collar and elbow tie-up. We're 2 for 3.
Wow, shock.
It just started with Shotzi Blackheart doing
collar and
shit.
elbow tie-up from the night. To be fair, that was it. We're done. We can just pack it home tonight, boys. That's it. We got as far as we were going with that.
But I am disappointed in WWE for basically making Shayna Baszler a coach. She might as well just have a towel and say Coach Baszler on the back of her shirt.
She was Shotzi's punching bag in this match.
Why did they do this to Shayna?
Because they like making us miserable.
On the planet.
But why did they do this to Shayna?
Because she's not the best woman on the planet.
Well, let me rephrase that. They did it to Asuka, so why am I surprised that they did it to Shayna? Does the Women's Championship in NXT mean you are going to be literally destroyed and made to seem like a total cuck bag in the main roster, and that's with or without Vince McMahon there.
Apparently.
Well, NXT Women's Champion post Horsewomen.
Yeah, I can't wait for Mandy Rose to come back to the main roster and get beaten in the powder.
Loses to Shotzi in her first night.
Mandy Rose is fine. But God.
Well, we'll save your gushing for Mandy Rose for when she returns. Continue shitting on this match if you would.
Well, real quick, I want to shit on the fans too. Skyler, can I borrow your gun and assassinate the audience? Because the audience started going, "We want Sasha! We want Sasha!" And I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't.
I mean, to be honest, like, given the women that were in the match, I would have preferred Sasha Banks.
And I was going to say.
By compare, I'm so over Sasha Banks. I'm 100% in Sean's camp if she's the fourth of the four horsewomen. She's an Eddie Guerrero wannabe Snoop Dogg cosplaying wrestler who's way too tiny to make any of her shit look believable, and I'm just over it. She's like, what color is her hair gonna be this week? I'm so over Sasha Banks.
I will say this though.
Having said that, she's still better than.
You and I are going to say the same thing, Sky. I would have picked Sasha Banks, and I agree that she is the fourth of the horsewomen, but she can still work at least. She knows how to work. She and Ronda had one of the best matches of Ronda's first run.
They did have a good match at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago.
And that was where I was like, okay, so Sasha still has some here. It's just that she's not in a good spot to showcase it, and I think Sasha also has kind of a big head, which also makes it kind of difficult to do business with her sometimes. That being said, I would have rather have had Sasha Banks go Broadway with a dog than have Ronda Rousey and fucking Shotzi Blackheart on this match. I literally wrote down Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi Bad Fart. And
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Now,
anything
again,
else?
Having said that, again, I don't blame the audience for chanting "We want Sasha" because this match was not going to give it to him. This was a bunch of really sloppy punches, kicks, weird strikes, submissions that don't mean anything, jumping into the crowd and literally going over extras, clearly paid extras.
And the paid extras could sell better than the wrestlers in the match.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, real quick.
Sean, you need to see this DDT spot because your soul will leave your body.
Like JR style.
No.
But okay, honestly,
I'm trying to kill the fans. I want to live. I'm trying to extend my lifespan, and I'm not trying to lower the hours on that lifespan by watching Shotzi fail.
that botch was horrid.
Because they root for the Boston Bruins, and clearly they suck, and they know they suck.
That botch was horrid.
That's why we're on a 12-game whole win streak, Sky. Keep trying.
Okay, real quick. That botch was horrid. But what pissed me off more than anything else, after watching Finn Balor basically do a masterclass of this is how you sell your leg. Ronda Rousey has Shotzi in the ankle lock for like 20 to 30 seconds, and then Shotzi gets out of it and is walking around perfectly fine. Not selling it at all. Jumps out of the ring, lands on her feet, not selling it at all. Just, why are you a wrestler? Why are you in a wrestling company? Why is this what you wanted to do with your life? Do you just want to make me miserable?
I mean, to be fair, Ronda Rousey's ankle locks all look terrible.
But at least act like it hurts.
I think that's the one thing I saw in that whole match was the ankle lock. I think that was it.
The selling in this match was atrocious. Also, the wingtips have never been worse.
He needed a whipple ball bat.
God,
that's the state of our SmackDown Women's Division. And everyone shits on Charlotte, but Charlotte was at least consistent in her boredom.
Like, just make sure Charlotte doesn't do a moonsault and you'll be fine.
Which, by the way, I want to make a point here because Skyler mentioned it to me, and actually Skyler saw it before I did. They did a Charlotte package, but then never mentioned it on the main roster and on the main show. Why?
I don't know.
Understand. They're teasing her to return, but against who? And under what circumstances? And what parts of her face will be in different places than they were before.
Well, there is a special event that's coming up and a match type where people usually return from lengthy stays of goneness, and, well, the women's division needs help filling the numbers, so...
I'm going to use that to describe a hiatus from now on. Lengthy stays of goneness.
We have a heightened state of goneness. Sorry to hear about your dad. Yeah, his just goneness went full blast.
Look up hiatus in the dictionary. A lengthy stay of goneness.
Having said that,
we are gathered here today to mourn the goneness of our dear friend, Damage Control.
And it was lengthy.
Who were brutally murdered in a cage.
Yeah.
Because of bad booking in about 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Lest we forget their here-ness. Let's celebrate their here-ness.
fuck both of you.
Oh, God. Oh, folks.
Oh, that was great.
Where else are you going to get this dynamic than the Corporation Podcast and TAW Gaming? And this is about as good a time as any to plug the programs. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe and share with all your friends so they can all be like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
That is the key. That is core friendship right there. Making your friends ashamed to be friends with you.
Yeah.
Now, Sean, before we continue, can I ask you something? I need a favor.
I'm afraid.
After watching this match and just remembering all the terribleness of it, I need something to pick me up. I need something to get me in a good mood. And maybe I just need to play a little bit of music and forget this terrible match. And do you have something that can help me forget this terrible match?
Well, see, when I saw what was billed and I said I am 100% not engaging in this fiasco, the first thing I did was see what was on the docket, see what the new releases of the past month were, and I stumbled upon A-Bizzle and White Knucks' Mixed Bag 2. Because November 18th, folks, Mixed Bag 2 released. It is the sequel to the 2018 album released by yours truly, White Knucks, Mixed Bag. A-Bizzle and White Knucks brought that back. New beats, new story. We're progressing things along. You want to talk about storytelling better than a War Games match that opens up a show. You've got it in the entire discography of what AB Production CT is able to bring to you. Just a Bit More, which was my album, White Knucks' album, released on October 14th. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you can get it, as well as Mixed Bag 2. 2 albums in 2 months. We are extremely proud of both of these albums and the effort that we've put in, and we are really excited to share this with all of you, as well as we are now up to, guys, in AB Production CT, 128 monetizable, copyrighted, full-blown songs under the label since we've started. And we began in 2018 with Mixed Bag and Bare Min. We have made 128 songs from albums and EPs and all sorts of projects, and that's not even counting the SoundCloud discography, which has a whole bunch of stuff that we cannot monetize, but boy, is there storyline depth to that too. There's a lot to go through. It's quite a journey, the AB Production CT experience, and it's something that the music industry sorely needs. No more talk about hoes and yay, but instead come up with new music today. Look for White Knucks spelled W-H-I-T-E space K-N-U-X or A-Bizzle spelled A-B-I-Z-Z-L-E, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you want it. That's the way you need it, any way you want it. Not stealing more lyrics, because you can listen to better lyrics from White Knucks and A-Bizzle. Come join the entertainment revolution with AB Production CT.
Thank you. I feel so much better already.
Oh, and I said it's a journey, and then I quoted Journey. That's really good.
Figures.
But I'll tell you what, the thing about Journey is that when you've heard that song, all of them, you know what one I'm talking about, really, but when about all their songs, you're like, wow, Journey, again, I've heard it a fucking bazillion times. I would love to hear somebody do something different or refresh the format of the way that these songs are done. And that's something they did to some extent in this triple threat match in WWE.
Hold on. Wait.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Do you guys talk about the backstage segment before the triple threat?
You know what? You're right, Sky. We should. Because this
Sean, apologize for punching Skyler in the face.
I mean, I'm used to it, so...
It's okay, Sky. I would never punch you in the face. But you're right. But we should talk about this segment because then this is the final, the stare down. You know, I need answers from you, Sammy, and be very careful how you answer these questions. And I love that throughout this whole thing, Sami Zayn just told the absolute truth.
Oh yeah, because he's petrified to lie to Roman Reigns, like lying to the tribal chief. That's like scandalous. And Sami Zayn's like, no, I can't. Like again, it's the whole like how Paul Heyman sees Roman Reigns and acts like he's a god. Sami Zayn also not to the extent that Paul Heyman does, but it's the same idea.
Roman Reigns is a mafia boss, and if you say the wrong thing to him, he's going to have you executed.
He's the Godfather.
And I really do like the way they built the tension. With every passing question, it just was like you couldn't quite tell what was going on in his mind. But he's sitting there, he's thinking, he's processing every answer that Sammy's saying, and you can tell Sammy is getting a little uneasy with every time he's answering, and he's thinking about how he wants to answer these questions and what's going on. But then when Roman Reigns finally asked the question, like, I need to know, and you could see Sammy's whole demeanor change, and where he's usually frolicky and like, you know, kind of trying to break, all of a sudden Sammy locks into this serious mode and looks Roman in the eye, and you can feel that intensity. And that's something where I really got to give Sami Zayn credit. The depth of emotions he's able to exude. Why the fuck did this motherfucker wrestle Johnny Knoxville?
I knew that was coming. It was only a matter of time, ladies and gentlemen.
Because Vince McMahon made him.
But he agreed. I'm not going to get into it.
But that's the thing, is that you can agree to doing something and you still hate it. It's just Vince McMahon was that all-powerful mafia boss, but now he's dead. See, this is why we need to advocate for murdering people.
Jesus. This show.
This is the darkest, lighthearted show I've ever been a part of.
How about the darkest, lighthearted show you've ever been a part of with CIW?
We started this show with Veggie Tales.
Yeah, I was about to say.
We started this show about a Christian show that talked about political commentary and taught Bible messages.
Yeah.
And we spent the entire show going, we're going to kill the fans.
We're going to kill the fans. We need to kill Vince McMahon, Johnny Knoxville. Just, my God.
I mean, to be fair, I would like to kill Johnny Knoxville and Vince McMahon.
The dude's a cockroach. You can't kill him. He's basically immortal.
Well, Sky, maybe you could use some Beyblades to do it.
Oh, man. Poor Austin Theory.
It's Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. And the first thing I said was Beyblade is a fucking deep cut.
Yeah.
How is that relevant in 2022? Somebody tell me how Beyblade is still alive.
I think I might have said it a few too many times because, again, me and my fiance have been binge watching Attack on Titan, and one of the characters is a guy named Captain Levi, and when he grabs two swords, he spins around like a freaking Beyblade and just destroys people.
Because now 90s kids have money and their nostalgia is going to force them to buy stuff like that. That's why Pokemon's so big. That's why Digimon's been running back. That's why Bleach is going back. Dragon Ball Z is going back, and so is Beyblades.
Yeah, that's why I totally don't have 24 different Yu-Gi-Oh decks that I do tournaments with by myself. That totally doesn't happen because I'm not a 90s kid. I'm turning 30 next year, you know.
Honey, did you pay the bills for like the electricity bill for this month? No, but I bought some Beyblades.
No, I do my electrician. If I win, I won't have to pay.
Like, next we're
Oh, Bionicles! Oh my God, that is
was the shit.
those were so awesome.
I love Bionicle. But anyway, exactly. But then speaking of kind of like flashbacks, we get a little taste of older Rollins music in Rollins music, which was cool. And Rollins dancing to the ring just makes me laugh now.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. He's so ridiculous in his movements that it just makes me laugh every time I see him. It's like I really do hope that in modern games we can get Seth Waluigi to dance like that.
Seth Rollins is all of us who just took a shower, got their best jacket on, and starts dancing their way to the living room.
Wet.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
The water that we clearly didn't dry off by putting on a leather jacket without toweling off first.
Yeah.
And you're still just trying to get all that shit off your leg. You're trying to get the water off your leg, which is why you're like hunched over, like trying to get the water off of the jacket because like leather and water just don't match well. Anyway, what did y'all think of this triple threat match? We'll start with Josh again.
I can't tell you which one I enjoyed more, this match or the Finn Balor AJ Styles match. I thought this was one of the best triple threat matches they've done in a while. But my absolute favorite thing about this, not only this match, but this whole feud between these three, finally, the United States Championship feels somewhat important. I feel like that's the biggest takeaway. That and Austin Theory's new aggressive persona, which is also really good. But it just makes me happy that they're actually trying. They're at least putting effort into the secondary titles.
Sky?
Been a long time since I've seen a triple threat that I didn't just like immediately zone out of, and that's because they did something different, which is they brought a lot more energy into this match, and it was a lot more fun, and it was a justified triple threat match. Because how many times we get a multi-person match that's like, you're going to fight this guy and this guy because reasons.
We had one of those in the beginning match.
Yeah, the let's do it for the sake of doing it match. And I have to agree with both of you. I thought that I think the triple threat matches in WWE had become very painfully formulaic. Recent, again, we said hashtag bad formatting, and triple threat matches were a part of that. This, as Skyler said, was built better as far as what they were trying to accomplish with these three. I think that I think a lot of times in matches between them, you'd get the standard, let's take one person out, have the first two fight. Take the next person out, have the next two fight. Take the last person out, have the first person and the third person fight.
Just rotate like a Beyblade.
Yeah. You didn't get that. It didn't feel like that.
I'm glad I broke one of you with that.
And it just, to me, it just flowed better. And now, to be fair, I'm going to like Finn Balor and AJ's match better inherently by proxy of it just being a singles match. Because a triple threat match is still a triple threat match. As much as I want to like this more, I can't. It's just singles matches are just better, in my opinion. But that's not to say that these three didn't try hard and they didn't make this feel important and still feel like it was refreshingly different from triple threats of recent memory. Like, for example, I do like the fact that they did the flatliner DDT, that Bobby really got shown. I wish that they didn't just shit can Theory at the beginning, but I guess because of what they were going to do later, it's fine. Although I do have to say, did you notice the major commentary faux pas?
Which was?
So Skyler's answer is no. Did you notice, Josh?
No, I did not.
So Austin Theory has got the advantage on Seth and Bobby, and Theory goes to do a vertical suplex on Bobby, but Bobby just lifts Theory up and does a vertical suplex himself, and the commentary completely missed that. Because they're talking about whatever thing they're talking about, and then they're like, "Oh, suplex by Lashley." I'm like, "Yeah, but Theory set that up, and he countered like that. That was a moment to call, and then you didn't call it because you're hooting handing around." And for a commentary table that I didn't have a ton of issues with on the night, that one was jarring.
If that's the worst the commentary got on the night, then I think we should count our blessings.
Hats off, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, these three are just different level of worker compared to a lot of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, Bobby and Seth are so good, so it's not anything surprising. Austin Theory has definitely gotten better. He's definitely gotten to a point now where, like, before he had to be carried in matches, but now he can do his own part in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you remember it was earlier this year when he faced Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam for the U.S. title? He feels so much more important and volatile and like an actual player in this match than in those previous two matches. Especially the SummerSlam one where Bobby basically just squashed him.
Well, I think another part of that, too, is that Triple H knew that they had to knock him down in order to build him back up.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't keep steamrolling him the way that they were, because that was only going to lead to problems. And yes, it looked ridiculous when he cashed in his Money in the Bank on the United States title, but I think that was more because they had to get it off of him.
Yeah, it felt like they desperately needed to get the Money in the Bank briefcase off of him.
Yeah, and I think that now they're like, and they even said as much like, hey, we had to do this so we could reset this motherfucker. So just bear with us here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically said that in Theory's promo. But I think it worked. It worked. But I have to say this too, because as great as Bobby was, doing the things like that like half dominator, but he flops him onto the side, the flatliner DDT, that meeting of the minds from the fireman's carry position.
Oh, that was gorgeous. That was gorgeous.
Well, all of that was great, but there's a master of triple threat matches that WWE has, and his name is Seth Rollins.
Indeed.
Think about Seth Rollins' history in triple threat matches, because I can think of two immediately that I remember are head and shoulders ahead of most other triple threat matches I can remember. And that is, of course, the big one in 2015 between him, Cena, and Lesnar. That
was a fantastic match.
And was it him that was also in that match between between Kane and Lesnar?
No, that was Braun Strowman.
Ugh.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Brock Lesnar, Kane, and Braun Strowman at the
Rumble.
2018
Rumble. I'm sorry, I was mad. But then the other one that I was thinking of was the opening of WrestleMania. I want to say 34.
No, it was 34. It was for the Intercontinental title against Finn and The Miz.
With Balor, Miz, and
yes,
Rollins.
Yes.
And there was also the Shield triple threat with Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose.
Battleground 2016. That one's pretty good too.
Even the cash in with Reigns and Lesnar at WrestleMania 31.
All I'm saying is that Seth Rollins is a pretty damn good triple threat wrestler. He knows how to frame those matches to where they make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they can actually be engaging storytelling-wise. And that's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do give Seth Rollins credit for being that much of a common denominator in what are known to be very good triple threat matches.
I never even realized that, but you are 100% right. All those matches that you just described are like the quote-unquote premier triple threat matches in this company's history as of late. And all of them have Seth Rollins in them.
Yeah, which is pretty wild when you think about it, and especially because Seth Rollins' offense looked so blah when he made that comeback against Theory. And it's like I don't know what it was, but Seth felt uninspired in some of this parts of this matchup as far as laying in his shit. Like all those dives back and forth, they got sloppier and sloppier and sloppier every time he ran the ropes. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, when he did the big dive over the top, he got Bobby pretty good, completely whiffed Theory, and Theory had to sell it anyway.
Yeah.
It does feel like Rollins kind of like he took this match off a little bit.
At points.
It wasn't Seth's best, but it was at that point. It was just like, we all know that Seth has done better than this, so I didn't really, everyone's afforded a not as good a night.
Mm-hmm.
Who's perfect all the time. I'm not. So I was like, I didn't really hold it that badly against him. But then Bobby Lashley hit that not necessarily a choke slam. And I'm like, that is why Skyler made that his finish.
Yes, monstrous.
Because that was thunderous.
Yes, it was.
And
I mean, anything Bobby does is thunderous. Although, I will say this, the double hurt lock was a little weird.
It was a little ridiculous, I will admit.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Because before we get to that, there was still some more fun stuff, like I think that Seth Rollins is going to turn face before too long. People are really starting to back him again. He basically already is, but he isn't quite yet.
I loved how Seth went for a springboard clothesline or knee, and Bobby caught him and just threw him over his head like a belly-to-belly suplex, but he didn't go down with him just to show his dominance. That was great.
Yeah. And then Theory hits a roll-through blockbuster, which was awesome.
Yes, it was. It was great.
And then something that spots don't make me pop anymore, but the callback to the Brock Lashley finish into the frog splash breakup counter was insanely good.
Seth crushed this dude with this frog splash. My God.
It was perfect, because I couldn't see him, and then all of a sudden, wham!
It was so perfectly timed.
Man.
And I thought he, broke Bobby Lashley's neck for a split second, because he landed, right on his head.
Yeah, it was something.
It was sick.
And that's where I saw, this does not feel nearly as formulaic as Triple Threats past. But then the final portion of this match is the old story of good idea, in theory, not so much in execution.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, and really, both the double hurt lock and this finish get A+ for creativity, but maybe a C in execution.
Is that the most gentle spear ever delivered in a wrestling ring ever?
No.
No, but it wasn't the spear that bothered me. It was the fact that Theory couldn't really angle his body to make it look like he didn't deliberately cover Seth. Because he had to kind of crawl onto Seth when the whole idea of that finish was that he fell from the suplex and just landed on Seth with his arm over Seth. That's not really what happened. He got a vertical suplex, he landed it, and then he kind of just crawled over onto Seth. It wasn't the fluid motion they were hoping it'd be. And to be fair, that was a complicated finish to have it look like that.
Yeah, they tried. They tried.
It was an A+ for full marks for creativity.
I will say they did that same exact finish, except way better back at Hell in a Cell 2018 when it was Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, of all people, versus Seth Rollins, funnily enough, and Dean Ambrose. Because remember, it was Superplex into the Falcon Arrow on Dolph Ziggler. Drew McIntyre hits the Claymore kick on Ziggler, on Seth Rollins, and Ziggler just happens to land on top of Seth. They did that perfectly at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Not so...
Seth Rollins jumped on Theory to stomp Bobby was cool.
That was awesome. He just about murdered Bobby Lashley with that, walking across Austin Theory, and just about squishes Bobby Lashley's head with his foot off that curb stomp.
Which, by the way, cut Bobby Lashley open, so you got a little trickle of juice.
A little bit of juice.
And I know Sean was happy like a girl with a shiny new viper.
I mean, I was like, all right, cool. Knowing that there wasn't any on the rest of the night, I'm like, all right, it's something. So I was happy with that, but all in all, this match was refreshingly better than I thought it was gonna be. I think that it was ambitious, and ambition is good, and not everybody's gonna execute perfectly. So I give you credit for trying for what you did. It just didn't necessarily pan out, I think, the way that they were hoping it would. I think the end result is fine. I don't mind Theory winning by quote-unquote accident.
Well, the thing is that at this point, Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins are both bulletproof. They don't need the U.S. title.
Mm-hmm.
Theory failing to cash in and then getting the belt back anyways is a very good bookend to his character change. And now it puts him in the position where he's the U.S. champion, he can be the mid-card champion and continues to develop because, again, he's only 24.
God, I'm older than Austin Theory. Oh my God. I don't know how to feel about that.
I also like the fact that they had him grow out the beard to kind of make him look a little bit more mature with this whole aggressive side to him. Because, again, it does help. Like, being a kid, there is only so far you can go with having the slappable, childlike face like Sammy Guevara before they need somebody who looks more like a, gruff, a little gruffer, a little rougher around the edges, and I think the beard helps that.
Speaking of which, did you also notice he was not taking any selfies? He's pretty much dropped the whole selfie shtick.
They said that too. They said they're like, the selfie time is gone.
Oh yeah.
They mentioned that for him. So
they just need to not play Beyblades during his entrance anymore.
Yeah, they'll play Beyblades and we're fine. But again, it's the whole thing is that Austin Theory is more serious. He's growing himself out. He's becoming a man before our eyes. Which Sammy Guevara, please, man, really.
I just want Sammy Guevara to go away, like I want Nikki Cross to go away.
He needs to be killed, murdered.
Well,
with a Beyblade.
With a Beyblade.
We've said a lot of stuff that would make us think that it was our last episode. This very well might be our last fucking.
Well, I mean, we are threatening murder on this episode.
At this point, we're really pushing YouTube's boundaries here, but
yeah, but you know that Tony Khan definitely deserves it.
Tony Khan, maybe. I mean, Sammy Guevara, I don't know, but.
By the way, I do not actually advocate for murder. I want peace.
Why not?
Because we got a main event to talk about.
Oh yes.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, pal.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? We should just get all of these people Skyler wants to kill into 2 rings and a cage, and just let Skyler have at it.
Yeah.
It's the men's War Games match, the one with the actual story involved.
And the actual talented competitors.
Yes, very talented, much talent, very much talent. You can tell all of the talent is very talented. By the way, that they talent themselves for their talent.
All right.
And every time that they talent.
Sean?
So what did you think about this match, JoshAgeddon? Tell us your thoughts about what you thought.
I thought this match was very talented.
Good. Tell us more.
I loved the way they talented their talent all over the talented ring talent. And then, okay, I can't keep doing this. I might actually kill myself. This was my favorite match of the night. It started a little slow because, again, that's the structure of the match. But once more people started going, like, as soon as Sami Zayn got involved into the proceedings, it got better. And then Jey Uso got in, and it just kept getting better and better. And by the time we got to the finish, I just thought it was the best piece of business on the whole night. And it should have been the only War Games match on the show.
Agreed. Sky?
I've got 2 words for you. Red undies.
Oh my God. The second I saw that, I laughed.
And the Bloodline wore all red in honor of the red undies.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. They all know blood is red.
And they're a line of blood, all right. This was a match.
Hopefully not in the undies. Then he needs to go see a
doctor. No, God, no.
Roman Reigns needs to have a new shirt that just says red undies on the front.
I'd buy it.
I would too.
If that was official Roman Reigns merchandise, I 100% would buy it.
The Tribal Chiefs undies.
That's right.
Okay, to be serious for a second, because this match demands seriousness.
Okay, Lance Storm.
Does Lance Storm wear red undies? He's Canadian.
He is Canadian.
Oh, we said the same thing!
He wore red trunks, but whatever. This was a match that, when you look at War Games, a lot of War Games matches, especially the modern ones, are let's wait until we get to the final entrant and then the shit will matter. This was a match with a story that was so good, and the way it was told, you had to watch the entire match to get the story because there were things happening in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to a War Games match to make it so that it's not skippable until the final entrance or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Which definitely with the concept is easy to do.
I only have one major criticism of this match, and it's not even the fault of the match or the people involved in it, but the whole Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens team, besides KO, none of them were important to this match, honestly. They were a plot device. I hate to be that guy, but they were a plot device, and they were there purely as the antagonists to the Bloodline, who were basically the protagonists of this story.
Basically, yeah.
Well, but who else are you going to put in that position? I mean, I understand what you're saying, Sky, because it's, definitely with Owens being further development into that. I think the dirtiest this does anybody is Drew, but
yeah.
at the same time, I don't know what else you would do when really the whole show itself was framed around Sami Zayn. Like, the whole thing was about the Bloodline. They could have put any 5 guys in opposition to the Bloodline and the story, or 4 plus Kevin Owens, and the story would have been the same.
Right, and that's why, again, I don't fault any of the competitors or even the match type itself. It's just, it's naturally what was going to happen.
I see what you're saying. I definitely don't disagree with what you're saying. And I kind of saw this backwards because I, fell asleep before. When I said, no, I'm not watching that women's match, I ended up falling asleep because I was just super tired. I had very little sleep the night before. So I came back and I woke up like an hour and a half later and watched the last half of this. And then I watched the first half of this match today, so it's a little bit backwards for me. But
so you pulled in the AEW and watched the match halfway through the half ending before you got to the beginning, and vice versa or something. Jack 6 here to save the future from the past, and going to the past and save the future.
Bleeds Hawaiian punches and afraid of the floor.
That's right. And this was the point where I said, I can't believe I'm missing Mike Roman, the Ham Witch. Because she was just ridiculous. It's one thing for a dude to hamletize a thing. I made up word. I can English. I'm gonna go to the hospital. I'm having a stroke.
Gets seated right next to gets seated right next to Tony Schiavone.
That's right. me and Tony are gonna share a bed.
You have an aneurysm too? Yeah. Who are you? I don't know.
First time? Maybe. I can't remember anymore. But this match, and I can't believe I'm going to reference this a second time, this match was like Shrek, because it had layers. And it was, it was great. I mean, everything. I have one major question in this entire thing. Who gave Roman Reigns a chair?
He brought a chair to the ring.
Sit down. I don't care if he's the tribal chief. Who the fuck gave him a chair?
Probably Paul Heyman.
Up there. Well, then show that. Be like, here you go, tribal chief. Sit down. You do not need to stand until you're ready, tribal chief. I will hold your belts for you over here.
Speaking of that, when people were coming out and you could just see Roman Reigns directing traffic like a mafia boss, that was just money. Just take all of my money.
And normally I hate Kevin Dunn's extreme close-ups, but in this case with Roman Reigns, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wanted to know how he was orchestrating things, because they built it to where they were watching Roman orchestrate things. Like making Sami Zayn and Jey Uso work together. Forcing them in the ring, doing sort this shit out.
And whenever things started going wrong for the Bloodline, you wanted to see Roman Reigns' reaction, and you're like, oh, these boys better start working together much better, or Roman Reigns is going to be pissed.
Yeah.
There was real drama in this match.
Yeah, which I loved. And it wasn't horrible. I mean, yes, it was milked because it's Roman Reigns and half of his matches are acting, but this was not as milked as I thought it was going to be. It still moved along. Sometimes what happens is they take too long milking that the whole match grinds to a halt.
All of that said, real quick, can I tell you the one thing in this match that I truly hated? This was my favorite thing on the show, but there was one thing in this match that I despised.
Is it the fact that Pete Dunne is still called Butch?
I mean, I hate that, but whatever. I thought he was great in this match. And in fact, one of my favorite things was when he was busy breaking Jey Uso's fingers, and then Jey punched him and was like, "Damn!" That was great. But Ridge Holland, Jesus Christ, ugh. The first thing he did when he entered the ring was almost drop someone off of a power slam, and I immediately was like, "Oh dear God, he's gonna ruin this entire match." And everything, he just looks like a lumbering oaf whenever he does anything. His face is dumb. He looks like a dumb box person. Why am I watching this man?
He's Ryback with hair.
Ryback wasn't this bad.
No, Ryback was pretty terrible.
Huh?
You sure about that, JoshAgeddon?
I mean, at least Ryback could have a match.
It wasn't a long match.
You sure about that, JoshAgeddon?
I mean, I don't like Ryback at all. I can't stand Ryback, but if you put...
We need to have a Ryback match of the week just for you.
No, well, listen. I hate Ryback. I think he's an idiot and a terrible wrestler. But if you put Ryback and Ridge Holland in front of me, I would gladly pick a Ryback match 100% of the time.
The only reason that Ryback didn't break Big E's neck is because he didn't have the opportunity.
That is also true, but my God, Ridge Holland sucks.
No, I'm not saying Ridge Holland doesn't suck. Everyone who has heard me talk about Ridge Holland for 5 seconds knows my opinion of Ridge Holland. That dude can go fuck a railroad spike. And it basically go the same way as Nikki Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And go right down that crosswalk and fucking right out of here. Don't take the handicap ramp.
But other than that was the only thing in this match that I strongly disliked. Oh, Skyler, we're losing you.
Sky, can you start again with your words?
I mean, you're advocating for violence. How is that any worse than me advocating for murder?
Well, there's a difference.
You can run away from violence. You can't run away from murder.
Well, not with that attitude.
So, I don't have
Nick Gage is beating himself.
Anyway, I did notice that they saved all the 3D graphics for this matchup.
Yep.
No, they had them for the other matches too. Austin got them. AJ got them.
But I really wasn't paying attention to the entrances for anybody, except for the ridiculous masks during that Brawler and AJ match. That's But in any case, why was Paul Heyman in a boot? Does anyone know?
Your guess is as good as mine.
He probably was like getting money from disability from the SSI, but he had to fake that he had an injury, so he just put the boot on and he's just pretending to limp around.
Maybe. Oh, speaking of Ridge Holland, because
either that or he's still selling the Brock Lesnar thing, which if he is, that's great storytelling.
Yeah, good for him. Or he actually had something happen where he was like trying to get a jar of pickles from the fridge and he tripped on like his cat.
He stepped on a Beyblade.
And then
and went flying across his kitchen.
I love the visual of Paul Heyman wearing like a onesie, walking down to the fridge to get a midnight snack, and he just has like errant Beyblades strewn about his kitchen.
Steps on one and goes flying.
Children wanted Beyblades, and you're like, fine.
Dude, you know, like in every movie you have like whenever like the adult is like going to the kitchen for like a midnight snack, they have that little like that bedtime hat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paul Heyman absolutely has one of those.
100%. Yeah, fuck stepping on Legos. You ever step on a Beyblade?
You just get launched across your house.
Just ping-ponged around my house. I started in my bedroom. I ended up in the pantry.
I got launched out into my driveway. I don't even need to drive cars anymore. I just need to use like Beyblades to launch me to work. It's like a catapult.
And,
Jesus.
It doesn't have to start with a collar double tie.
No, we're done with that. I said before we're done with that. That was over. So we got 2 out of 5. Whatever. We had 4. I'm surprised we got 2 out of 5, to be honest with you. So, I'll cut our losses there. Everything Ridge Holland does is weak as fuck.
Yes. And awkward.
Everything he does is weak as fuck. But I do have to say, Butch and Ridge sounds like a fucking Cabela's level. We're about to go after Butch and Ridge, see if we can get ourselves a couple of bucks. Look out for the red dot.
Oh my God, Sean, you know exactly how to just deep cut down to my soul with these references.
I've been in a deep cut mood today, or for a different flavor. It sounds like the location for a Red Dead Redemption 2 mission.
Oh God!
Just to bring everybody else up to speed.
Oh God.
To the Butch and Ridge, we're gonna go find Arthur Morgan, and Pearson's gonna make us a stew. I'm not gonna lie.
Jesus Christ! Damn it, Sean. Now you're hitting me where I live.
That's right.
Oh,
I'm
God.
cutting everybody. What is this, a John Moxley match?
You brought it back to the center. Sean, you're on fire today. Not gonna lie.
Man, Sean is on another level today.
But we've already talked about Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And now, but I love the fact, like we said before, that Roman forced Sammy to work with Jay, and then there was the issue, they were starting, and Jay consistently didn't trust Sammy, even though Sammy was like, helped Jay get away from getting splashed into the cage.
Mm-hmm.
And Sammy was basically sacrificing himself or trying to keep his boys. Sammy being a constant team player consistently kept this match engaging.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, would I have loved some juice.
Yeah.
But question is where?
Anywhere.
Everywhere.
I don't care.
We want a bloodbath.
Fucking all of them. But you can pace it out. The only thing that bothers me, and again, this is just the sterility of this show. Seeing Jey Uso get lawn darted into the cage means nothing when you don't see it. Say what you want about that ridiculous Armageddon Hell in a Cell in 2000, but when you saw Triple H's head getting grated on all four sides of the steel from Steve Austin while his head's covered in blood, it meant more. It felt like him being grated on the steel was that much more inflicting of damage and wearing him out. The time when Triple H got slungshot by Shane McMahon into the cage, and then Vince McMahon did his great surprised Pikachu face in the camera right afterwards. That wouldn't have felt the same if Triple H's face had just been clean.
Yeah, you're right.
It wouldn't have. It's one of those things where it's like, I felt myself craving juice because the stipulation called for it.
Mm-hmm.
The storytelling called for it. And Triple H doesn't have to overtly say, yeah, we're going to cut people. He could still take the stance of, oh yeah, we've outgrown it and we don't need it and it's not wrestling, and then do it for something like this so it means something.
Or maybe he's saving it for WrestleMania.
And not do what AEW does and do it in every single show and almost every single match.
Could be. Well, we already mentioned John Moxley, so
yeah.
And maybe that's why Triple H is like, no, because look at how fucking gratuitous they're doing it. We don't need that. We can, but I feel like just a little bit of juice would have been made that much more of a difference. Can you imagine how much more desperate a situation it would have felt for Sami Zayn if Roman Reigns, as he looked up at Sami and nodded, for Sammy to hit that haluva kick, and I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit with other stuff here, but imagine how much more impactful that moment would have been if Roman Reigns in his weakened state had blood pouring down his face, and then was like, I'm beaten, I'm bloody, I'm the tribal chief, I'm not looking good right now, but you can save this for us, Sammy, do it, I'm orchestrating things, but it's up to you, and then Sammy hits that. I'm just saying, you could have used juice here to make what was already very good even better.
I will say though, on that haluva kick, Sammy nailed Kevin Owens with that thing, and it almost looked like he gave him a black eye.
Yeah, and that's the angle that you do the boot from, Kevin, not the one in the opening match.
Yeah,
where Bianca clearly wasn't hit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because Kevin Dunn got a hearing from Triple H and said, fucking do it better in the main event or you're fucked.
Triple H walked into the production truck and said, Kevin Dunn, what in the hell was that?
That's my favorite Eric Bischoff line.
Yes.
Ever. That's still is one of my favorite lines. And then Drew comes into the ring, and this made me keel. I had to pause the show. This made me laugh so hard as he's going there beating everybody, and then he's walking around. He's feeling good, and then he says as loud as he can, "I'm feeling pretty easy right now."
Yeah, that was good. Feeling pretty oozy.
It just killed me. I was like, "Oh, Drew."
Okay, I love Drew McIntyre. He needs to stop doing like his future shock DDT used to look gorgeous and beautiful. He does it too fast now. He does it so fast that he can barely hook it right, and it looks sloppy. Drew, I love you. Either do the future shock DDT with the leg swing and it look good and effective, or just stop doing it. The snap future shock looks so clunky.
Also, Drew, you need to stop calling spots, bro. You're too loud. I could clearly hear him tell Sami Zayn DDT when he was about to do the future shock.
And also, Drew, I love you, but you need to go away for 6 months and then come back. I love Drew, but at this point, I think that the fans are so stale on him that he has to leave and return fresher. Because I don't think fans are going to accept Drew in any capacity of major success, good or bad. And that's not necessarily facilitated by a heel turn. I think he needs time away for the fans to miss him.
Longevity, man.
Like you both said, he was very much lost in the shuffle in this match.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to Drew. I would rather him take some time, go Scotland, and then come back come back when people were like, man, we need somebody to refresh you or somebody intense to take on, and then bam, here's Drew McIntyre.
Go feel Uzi back in Scotland.
I'm just saying, I think that now is a good time for not a release. I don't want him going anywhere, but a break from Drew McIntyre for everyone. How can I miss you if you won't go away?
They need to start advocating the whole vacation system thing. Like, give guys like 2 or 3 month vacations.
Yeah, when the timing calls for it, when they know that things so they can freshen up a bit. You know,
like Sheamus left for a month so he could go to a wedding.
Yeah, and then he came back and had a hell of a feud with Gunther.
Yep.
So, I'm just saying that like Drew could use the freshen up, and I want that for Drew. I want Drew to feel important again, and he just doesn't to me right now. And it's just that's what it. But then Jimmy Uso gets in, and then they have like the table shenanigans, and Owens comes in and does a little bit, but really where this match picks up is Solo Sikoa.
Oh, yeah.
Skyler said, why do you do your typical I'm faking an orgasm sigh that you've done since you've started on the podcast?
Every time I watch Solo Sikoa, I miss Umaga.
They actually referenced Umaga several times during this match when Solo was on offense.
But that's the problem. He's an Umaga tribute wrestler, just like every luchador is an Eddie Guerrero tribute wrestler.
I understand why you would say that. I don't necessarily think that they're that similar. I think that they're trying to push that they're that similar, but I don't necessarily think they are. I think that they want to push it like Umaga, but I don't know. I think that there's something different about Solo Sikoa that I can't quite place, and I don't think it's been brought out of him yet.
And also, they haven't been forcing it down your throat for over a decade like with Eddie Guerrero. Like, with Eddie Guerrero is so incessant all the time, you're just like, please stop. They haven't been doing that with Solo.
And, it's not like we saw the Samoan spike out of him.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they want to do with Solo something that I think they want to take their time with Solo, and yeah, maybe they're having him do some homages just to some homages.
I see what you did there. It was good.
Thank you. they'll do some of that just to kind of get people to remind them of like what the lineage is. But I think that there's more for Solo Sikoa than just being a Dolph Ziggler and a parody wrestler. There's more for him than that, and I think that they know that. But I don't know if this match was going to adequately showcase that either.
Also, I just wish Jacob Fatu was in this company.
Yeah, sadly, his criminal record is probably going to stop that ever from happening. But but Solo was still. I mean, I thought he was still good at what he did, just looking demolished. One of the things I really liked with him was when the Bloodline was making their entrance. He literally just turned around and just dead stared the baby faces for like a minute and a half. He didn't care about the chanting or the raising the hands or the one finger. Nah, fuck all that. He's like, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill you. I'm going to look you in the eye before I do it. And I loved that. Like, that kind of attitude difference. That's where I'm like, okay, they've got something with Solo, but I don't know exactly what yet.
Solo is also green and young. He needs a little bit of time to develop before he becomes what he is. But again, the whole thing is that when each and every time a Bloodline member came out, the dynamic of the match changed a little bit. When Jimmy comes in, he has to play Peacemaker with Jay and Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things where, again, little storytelling things. When Solo comes in and wrecks shit, Sammy's on top of it like, hey, you're doing great. And Jay's like, don't you fucking say nothing. Focus on the match or shit.
Yeah, and you really never felt that with hardly any of the baby faces. Kind of furthering your point, Sky, that this was really more about the heels than it really was about anybody other than Kevin Owens and the babyface side.
It's fun. Sometimes it's fun when the bad guy is the pro tag.
Well, but with Sammy, he's just so damn likable. Even if he is helping the heels win, it's like he's something else, And and then Roman comes in, and then we start. And the thing I liked about this the most is that it did not overstay its welcome once that bell rang.
These freaking uppercuts are just glorious. Roman Reigns has the best uppercut.
Best punch.
He's one of the best, save for when Drew was really putting some emphasis into his punches. Roman Reigns is one of the best. God damn, it's gonna sound like Michael Cole, but he is one of the best strikers in
the best pure striker in the business today.
He is.
That's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, he genuinely is. I mean, nobody lays in the punches quite like Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
And you could kind of, for all of the shit that we gave Roman Reigns for years, I said looking at this going, look how far this motherfucker's come.
I know. It's so insane. He used to be the absolute worst thing in WWE a couple of years ago. And now he's...
10 years. For 7 of those 10 years, or 8 of those 10 years, really, Roman Reigns... Nobody cared about Roman Reigns, no matter how hard they tried to push Roman Reigns down people's throats. But once they started slowing down and figuring out exactly what Roman Reigns needed to succeed, they finally got what Vince was desperately trying to have for so long.
He went from being one of the worst things in WWE to being part of the best thing in WWE. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could tell. It's head and shoulders, knees and toes above everybody else.
Exactly. This was, again, the best thing on the show, and the whole Bloodline deal is the best thing in wrestling today.
A question, Sean. Have you complimented Kevin Owens' Dusty Rhodes shirt?
I liked Dusty's shirt. And I also like Kevin Owens wearing Dusty Rhodes' shirt. Dusty Rhodes usually wore a shirt that was covering up all of his flabbergasms, but actually that's what Kevin Owens is doing. So there you go.
Right, and it was kind of like when Michael Cole at the beginning of the show mentioned that the War Games match was created by Dusty Rhodes back in 1987 during Jim Crockett Promotions. I'm just like, history lesson? Wrestling? WWE? What's happening?
I know, right?
Good, yeah, good.
More of this. More of this.
Yeah, do more of that. We don't need to
Kevin Owens
princesses, but more of that.
Although Kevin Owens doing the DX suck it before he does a cannonball was a little fun.
confused by that, but I was like, all right, fair enough. But really,
I mean, you
where
know
the
that Triple
story...
H was in the back smiling on his boy doing the DX
No, of
job.
course. But where the story really started to develop was here towards the end with Owens and Sammy in the stare down. And I'm gonna because I know one of the two of you is gonna be able to better describe this finish than I will. So whichever one of you wants to fight for who explains it, have at it.
Skyler, you have the con.
Do I have the con?
Well, if it's Tony, shoot him. Fulfill your murder fantasy, but go ahead.
Right, so all 5 guys on both sides are in the ring. They all brawl and shit with each other. And then basically, they take each other out one by one. Drew gets taken out by Solo with a rock bottom through the table.
That's the manhandle slam, sir.
No, it's a rock bottom.
Not when a Samoan does it.
It's a Uragi.
Fuck you.
Skyler, that's going to be your legacy in the wrestling business, is the changing of Uranagi to Uragi.
Sure it is. But basically, Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns are the last two on their team standing, and they're both brawling with each other. Kevin Owens is about to win. He hits the stunner, he hits a splash, he's going for the finish. Sami Zayn proceeds to stop it by grabbing the referee's arm to prevent the 3. And Kevin Owens is pissed, obviously, because he was about to win. And he was about to pin Roman. And they're looking at each other, they're talking to each other, they're angry as hell. Jay comes in, attempts to hit Kevin Owens with a super kick. Sami Zayn sells his soul and hits a low blow to Kevin Owens. And you can see the expression in Sami Zayn's face. He realizes, what have I done? But then he's like, I can't stop. I have to do what I need to do because I've chosen a side now. Helluva kicks Kevin Owens, and this Helluva kick was a Helluva of a kick.
It was the most solid, stiff, brutal-looking Helluva kick he's ever delivered.
Well, but the real key moment to that is right before he does it. Mm-hmm. When he looks at Roman, and Roman looks up at him and just gives him the nod, like, it's time, son. And that's what did it. And then the look at Jey Uso and then offering up the body.
Oh, yeah.
Of Kevin Owens so that Jey Uso can be the one to get the pin of, like, he's all yours. Does this prove it to you now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing, too, is that Kevin Owens, when he gets hit with the kick, he falls into Sami Zayn's arms, and Sami Zayn is holding Kevin Owens up. Jey Uso is looking at Sami holding Kevin, and Sami just puts Kevin down and says, do it. Finish it. Take it. Jey Uso goes to the top rope, hits the splash, which was picture perfect, mind you. Pin, 1, 2, 3. The Bloodline wins.
Yeah,
Bloodline picks themselves up.
Scott, before you get to the finish of this, you were giving Solo Sikoa shit about an Umaga impression when literally Umaga's finish was the end of the match. Just saying.
Well, that's the thing, that it's also Eddie Guerrero's finish, so are we attributing Umaga or Eddie Guerrero?
Well, what about Jimmy Snuka? What about Jimmy Snuka?
We don't talk about Jimmy Snuka. We're not allowed to talk about Jimmy Snuka in WWE. In the same way we're not allowed to talk about the fact that Scott Steiner debuted at Survivor Series, but everybody else did, and they mentioned everyone else.
That's a weird one. Like, Scott Steiner got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year.
Well, and you'd think, with the fact that there were 100% of the people they could have talked about, and they really only talked about 66 2/3%.
Oh my God!
At Survivor Series, and the people that they said, and you have to understand that that's not true.
and it spells disaster for you as sacrifice, Senior Joe.
But anyway.
For this review, Sean's going to give Survivor Series War Games a 63 1/3 out of 10. That's going to be a score for the show.
Because Kurt Angle knows that he can't beat Sean, and he's not even going to try.
He's not.
Kurt Angle might beat me, but Chris Jericho won't, I'll tell you that much.
Oh.
But the ending of this match, Roman hugs Sami Zayn like a brother, and basically, like, welcome to the family. Jimmy Uso hugs Sami Zayn regularly. Jey Uso grabs Sami Zayn and hugs him and lifts him in the air to the point where I thought he was about to belly suplex him.
When Jey hugged Sammy, the crowd popped.
Which was a really nice moment, I thought. Because I kind of popped. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, way to finally, like, prove yourself to them. And, like, for that, I can't speak.
Fences.
For that mend fences. You know, I know two really good fence mending guys. Their names are Irmo and Elmac. You can give them a call. I have their card if anyone's interested. I'll give you a contact.
Oh my god. Jesus.
Okay, your deep cuts are gone a little bit too far now.
No, we're not far enough. That one damn near decapitated me.
You know what? Actually, the context behind that debuted as we were talking. But in any case, look up CIW, folks. You won't be disappointed. But in any case, it was just the thing with this is that it ended the show. Even though the heels won, it was the right move. It was a great story to finish the show. And now they have a lot of different avenues they can take with this. They've left so much open to work with, which is brilliant. And it's something that WWE doesn't really do because they've made a habit and a living off backing themselves into a corner. And now they're actually kicking down doors with different lanes that they can take. And I like that, and it gives me hope for what Triple H is doing, progressing WWE.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. Little by little, Triple H is doing what he needs to do to fix WWE and make it a must-watch show again. Which, whoever thought we would say that about D-Generation executive members 20 years ago.
In the same year that we gave WrestleMania a 0 out of 30.
Yeah.
This is the same year.
2022 has been a roller coaster.
Like, when we're going to talk about this at the Grapplies, which stay tuned for the live event, the Grapplies coming up in December, the 3rd annual. We're going to have awards for as much wrestling as we've watched, good, bad, or absolutely abhorrent. We will be able to break all of that down for you. That's coming up in the future. But let's talk about show ratings. By the way, before we get to that, Chris Jericho is so fat that joke has lasted a full year since we started it, and he is equally as fat as he was then.
Speaking of longevity.
That's right.
But
Chris
may I
Jericho
very
is so fat his
quickly...
gut lasted a year.
May I very quickly talk about the press conference at the end of the night?
Media scrum.
Did Roman Reigns go off on a tangent right next to Triple H, and there was a big fight backstage between the Bloodline and, I don't know, the Brawling Brutes?
No. Again, and that's the thing, is that when WWE does something, it's professional, it's actually like a sport, and that's something that Triple H said in his press conference. Listen, I'm trying to reintegrate this sport and revise it and make it must-watch more than any other live sport or entertainment entity. And that's what we began tonight, and that's what I hope to continue to do. There were other interesting quotes, like the whole thing about the Survivor Series match that we didn't see, which was, you know, sometimes we need to refresh certain things, and that means that we need to take it away for a little bit, and we won't take it away forever. I'm sure when the situation calls for it, we'll bring that match back, but we decided to need to go a different direction this year. Or, another conversation, I know the fans like to talk about speculating match types like Hell in a Cell or Money in the Bank and Elimination Chamber, so on and so forth. Each one has its own merits for why it should stay a pay-per-view, but those are things that we're reviewing right now. But I can definitely guarantee you that there will be changes coming to next year's pay-per-view schedule. And also the other idea of maybe WWE Mexico, WWE South America. I would love to see a stadium show in Brazil. I'd love to see a stadium show in Argentina or Mexico and expand to other markets, because how long have they been going to the U.S. only? Clash of the Castle was such a great thing, and it's proof that they can do better. Again, these are professional-sounding press conferences, which Tony Khan cannot do, because everything Tony Khan does is amateur hour. Boys, fuck Tony Khan.
Because Triple H cares about business, and Tony Khan cares about Tony Khan.
Take Tony Khan and shoot him.
That might be the only one tonight I wouldn't refute. Or at least obligatorily say we're not actually endorsing it, which we are not actually endorsing it. But with Tony Khan, the urge is there.
The urge is there.
But let's get into the ratings here. And I want to say, too, Sky, the only thing I didn't like about the post, the media scrum, was when Paul Heyman said that they were the best act of the last 2 years. He endorsed Sammy, but I hate that use of that word because it's like it makes it sound like they're community theater workers, and that's not what they are.
Wait, hang on a second. You said you didn't watch it.
I said that doesn't mean that a short on YouTube didn't come across my face. But I saw it, and I was just disappointed that Paul Heyman called it an act. But I'm like, the point was fine because he's putting over Sammy, and it was a hell of an endorsement. But still, I just hate the use of that word. But now, let's go to ratings. And Skyler, you've talked a lot in the past 48 seconds. Tell us more about what you thought of this show overall.
Overall, I thought it was a good show. Like, this was maybe one of the better Triple H shows. How can you say that when there's only been 5 shows? But it was better than Extreme Rules by far.
Way better.
But that was because Extreme Rules was a B pay-per-view that they were kind of handicapped to do.
Yeah.
I don't miss the traditional Survivor Series match because, as Triple H has said, they need to maybe make people miss it a little bit and revamp it before they bring it back because the whole brand supremacy thing got tired AF in 2005, much less 2022.
Yeah. Agreed.
With that in mind, this was a very good show. There were several good matches on it, and there are things that you're going to want to go back and see except for the women's match, specifically the women's title match. Or again, if you're in the right mood. If you want to see a car crash, well, that's a great car crash match.
No, kinda.
But the main event, storytelling psychology, this is the type of shit that we like to see in professional wrestling. Because they brought weapons and tables and shit into the ring, and that was not what mattered. What mattered was the people in the match, and specifically Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns. And those 4 doing their part to tell the big story of the match, which was, is Sami Zayn on Roman Reigns' side, or is he with his best friend Kevin Owens? And he sold his soul to the Mafia boss. And it continues to make the Bloodline the most interesting story, the most interesting group in wrestling today. It didn't carry the show to this grade completely, but it definitely helped make it what it is. I can't give it higher, though, because as much as I want to give it a higher score, and I would easily give it a 7 or 8 if the matches were better, there were just those little things that just knocked me off. I'm just like, they didn't need to do this or they didn't need to do that. So I feel comfortable giving the show a 6 out of 10. Again, 6 is a good score for me because it's still a good number. It's still a show that I enjoyed. And in 3 hours and 7 minutes, I didn't get that bored with it for the most part. And that's all I can ask for right now.
I think that's a fair analysis. Josh, again, it's your turn.
I think I'm going to be a lot more high on this show than Skyler was. Again, while I did have problems, and I agree with a lot of the criticisms for the women's War Games match, it didn't offend me, except for Nikki Cross. I can't stand Nikki Cross. I thought that match was fine. It went on way too long, and they probably shouldn't have done it. But I still enjoyed watching it. I never felt insulted. AJ Styles and Finn Balor was great. We need more WWE matches like that, where it's a singles match and it's great, and it just has a simple finish. We need more simple finishes in wrestling. Ronda and Shotzi was god awful, but we all knew it was going to be, so no real shock. I'm just offended that it was even booked. And everything, and after that, the triple threat match was really good, and the main event was spectacular. I think that this show was really, really good. It had a few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I'm really liking what Triple H is doing with WWE at the moment. And this was so much better than last year's Survivor Series. It's not even funny. Remember the pizza match?
The fucking egg.
This was so much better. This was so refreshing. It was a short 5-match show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm giving this show an 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Would have been better if it wasn't. It would have been better if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey and Shitzy.
I honestly didn't expect that. I didn't expect you to give it that high of a grade. It's and I'll tell you this. I can understand after that match had come to a conclusion and the final, the screen had gone black. And I actually waited a few seconds just to see, because Triple H is known for doing the lower corner graphic and then pulling some shenanigans. I half was like, are they going to fuck with us now right at the end of this? But no, they didn't. But the fact that I was like still intrigued enough to watch until that final graphic was truly gone. I like that feeling. That feeling of I can't shut it off until I know for sure nothing's going to happen. I love that feeling, that attitude of like, there's still, you can't quite shut off the show prematurely. With Vince's show, easy. You know what you get. And the only way you're not is if it's worse than expected.
With Vince's show, you can't wait to turn it off.
Yeah, that one you can't shut that show off fast enough.
And this one, you're excited about what's happening next.
This show, as I'm sure you both are not surprised, my biggest critique of this show, one gimmick match. Period. I said it at the beginning. I'm not going to go into it again. That's my biggest critique. One. Do one. Just one. I like that the fact that they did take the 5-on-5 traditional tag away. Again, how can I miss you if you won't go away? I like that. I think that the fact that they put War Games in here worked. Because it was an adequate substitute. Would have been even more adequate if we only had one. But all of the men delivered on this show. The match that had somebody who I generally don't like in Finn Balor exceeded expectations. Enjoyed that for the most part. The triple threat match exceeded expectations. A little overambitious of a finish, but still overall pretty good. And the men's 5-on-5 for a 38-minute match certainly didn't feel like it. But both of these women's matches were pretty rough. And when it's one thing if it's 2 matches on a 9-match card or a 7-match card, but it was 2/5 of this show. 40% of this show was bad women's wrestling. And I like good women's wrestling. This show had none on it. That was a 45-minute slog of an opening contest where if I didn't have the trust in Triple H to deliver later on in the night, I, as a casual, probably would not have stuck around for the second of those War Games matches because that first one was on and went that long and they did everything. That's just being honest. And that's no knock on that's no knock on 8 of the 10 people in that match. But that's the truth. And it doesn't help progress their division that way. That took away from it, and the fact that I just downright refused to watch Ronda Rousey and Shotzi because I knew what that was going to be. So I don't really think that I can't say just how bad it was, but I'm thankful I didn't put the sour taste in my mouth to begin with. So as a result, when the final match ended up being as good as it was, I felt pretty good about the show. And I think that the overall, beyond the booking individually of the matches, you have to look at the show as a whole and what's being said and how they're taking things away and bringing new things in. And you can tell Triple H is going to figure this out. I have more confidence today saying that than I did after Extreme Rules. But he's going to figure this out. And they're going to figure this out. And I have more faith in that. So that is a very hopeful outcome of this show, I think. As for the grade, 3 out of 5 is 60%. So it gets a 6 out of 10.
So I'm the outlier this time.
So somehow, JoshAgeddon gave it the best grade of the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I also maintain that there is only room to go up from here for Triple H.
I agree.
I have a question for you guys.
Yes.
This was a 5-match show that was 3 hours and 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Did it at all feel a little bit like some of the NXT TakeOver days and those types of shows?
Somewhat, but some of the matches did not reflect the quality of the NXT days. Some did.
I think that there was something about the NXT days that was unique because everybody was delivering all at once. And the amalgamation of talent at that time was very unique. I think that Triple H is taking talent that isn't necessarily what he's handpicked to be there, which is why it feels different. But the essence of growth is the same. And that's really the most important part, I think, of what the similarity, if there is a connection to be made between old school NXT and this current main roster run of Triple H. I think Triple H learned from his mistakes, which he made a few of as the talent started to wane and things, further hands started to get into the NXT pot before Vince just took the sickle to everybody. And I think now Triple H is wiser than he was then. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect, but I think that aura of growth from NXT is there, and that's exciting.
I think the biggest thing is that I just want progression, and I want things to progress, and I want things to get better, because what it was before was very bad, obviously, on the roster WWE's part.
Oh, God, yes.
Well, I will say this, and we'll close with this too, and this is a really hopeful note, is that it's something that I actually thought of. I'm going to actually pull football back into the conversation real quick, because Jacksonville Jaguars, Shad Khan owned, head coach Doug Peterson, at the beginning of this year said the main thing we're focused on, whether we make the playoffs or not, is kind of irrelevant. What we're focused on here is healing. And I think what we're but healing takes time. Healing a culture takes time, whether it's on the football field locker room or in a wrestling locker room. And I think that we're starting to see WWE heal. And that makes me hopeful. And that's all we can ask for, isn't it, boys?
I agree. I mean, especially considering the depths of despair that WrestleMania dropped us in.
Yeah.
Things turned around in a major way. And they're still in the process of turning, but I, like Sean, I'm looking forward to the future.
And that's all we can ask for, is just a positive future that we can look forward to, such as the new year that's coming up.
Hell yeah. I'm looking, right. Honestly, can I tell you, before 2022 is done, the thing I'm looking forward to right now, I'm looking forward to the Grapplies. That's going to be a fun show, because this year was insane.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to review, and we're going to have a lot to talk about.
You want to talk about peaks and valleys.
Just one thing. WWE doesn't have a pay-per-view coming up in December, and they don't have day one. The next pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And the Royal Rumble now has a lot of interesting scenarios that can go to it. Is Cody coming back? Does he win the Rumble? Does The Rock win the Rumble? Does Sammy win the Rumble? Go up against Roman? Does CM Punk come to the WWE? There's a lot of interesting things going on, and the Royal Rumble is back to where it should be, which is the kickstart to WWE's year, and being interesting and providing future to WrestleMania.
I mean,
when was the last time that the Royal Rumble got 9 weeks of build?
It's been a while.
More than that, like 11 weeks of build, almost 2.5 months they're gonna have.
I just hope that this Rumble, and I have faith that it will, I just hope that this Rumble washes the bad taste of this year's Rumble out of our mouths. Because this year's Rumble was so lifeless and blasé.
Well, this year's Survivor Series did it.
Oh, hell yeah. Come on, Triple H, we believe in you.
Man, this is so refreshing to all feel like refreshed after this, and it's just, I love it. Very hopeful. And folks, until next time, we're going to be in 1990s Windows PC as a tomato and a cucumber and whatever Skyler is in front of this Macintosh Windows 95. And we're going to say so long for now until next time when we come back and do whatever random bullshit we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do yet.
I think I know what we should do.
We've got a territory deep dive we're going to do before the end of the year. We've got ACBW versus NWL before the end of the year. We've got another regular show for at some point that we're going to switch in there. And Skyler, what's your plan?
Ernie Ladd.
Oh yeah, we got to do Ernie Ladd. And we'll talk like Big Cat Ernie Ladd, and we'll tell you down, and you're going to sell like you're going to the electric chair. And before you all voluntarily go to the electric chair because we have spent as much time talking as they did wrestling. We will be right back right after this.
And thank you guys so much for listening to the Totally Awesome Podcast. I'm going to go buy some Beyblades and play with them until I get launched across my own house and crack my neck and die. So this might be my last podcast. Thank you guys for Sean and Skyler for joining to do this simulcast. It's always a great time. Good night, everybody.